Hello, Shayne. I'd like to start this video by speaking directly to you. When I released the first part of this series, you decided to blind react to it on a live stream on your Rumble.
Let's just have at it. Let's listen to what's being said. When I heard he is of sound mind in many ways, and we actually do have a lot in common. You guys may actually come out being at least a semi-fan of him.
I don't get too invested into the characters that... Being totally honest, hats off to you. That was a pretty brave choice. I was really interested to see how you were going to engage in real time with all of my evidence disproving your slew of misinformation. Unfortunately, and I guess somewhat unsurprisingly, you didn't do this. Instead, you watched about the first 30 or 40 minutes of part 1, which was mostly, an introduction and me giving my opinion on things, and then you stopped almost the moment I got into talking about actual science and facts. You waved away literally like an hour and a half of actual researched information, including the opinions of a professional geologist, by just saying, well, we can agree to disagree on the age of the Earth, and then just stopping the stream.
It's called agreeing to disagree. Like, I think what he goes into with the young Earth stuff, he doesn't believe that the Earth is, the age of the Earth could be even disputed. Maybe we'll have that disagreement. He doesn't believe me about geology, and he gets a mainstream geologer onto his freaking channel. Well, of course, they're going to debunk. It's the same thing. You go to Turkey, and there's a fucking giant skull bone
in the museum with double rows of teeth, authentic jawbone from a skull that your head would fit inside of. And I know that the mainstream has a debunk. It's fake.
You're buying their story, man. This isn't all about geology. This is about truth and awareness and some tomfoolery that's going on. Thank you all for joining.
A little piece of me was hoping you would return to this stream and, maybe just pick it up the next day. It would have been a long night, I'm sure.
We're probably going to end up doing 2 parts. You're right, if we made it only 36 minutes into this.
But you, of course, didn't do that, which I don't know why I would be surprised by, honestly. This, to me, was just a perfect demonstration of you willfully keeping yourself and your audience in an echo chamber. You had a great opportunity here to show actual research, but instead you made a conscious decision to not engage with any new information that may challenge your audience's worldviews or your perceived sense of authority. Since you didn't even really bother to engage with my fairly tame fact check in part 1, I was not surprised at all that you were similarly radio silent on all of part 2. Since this video illustrated how your marketing strategy preys on the poor and desperate, and how you promote health conspiracies that have literally led to the deaths of children, I wasn't all that surprised that you didn't want to platform this video with your audience. But honestly, I don't care as much about that, because I do think part 2 achieved something even more important. So there's trepidation in my voice, and there's a reason for that, because I find it hard to believe, but I think it might have worked. You see, at the time of me filming this video, you have not posted anything on your Instagram since the day that part 2 came out. And considering your post schedule that we talked about in part 2, where, there was days that you'd post upwards of 30 videos in a single day, I would say that this 7 days of radio silence is statistically significant. Along with this, you have also been completely radio silent on Rumble. Also statistically significant, since you normally do a live stream there every single day. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of speculation as to why this is, but I want to give you the benefit of the doubt that something that I said actually resonated with you, and that you're taking this as some time of much needed reflection.
Little vacation action, previously scheduled.
Screen record this. What the fuck? He's doing the same exact shit. I want to check on Instagram Reels. What is his, because it's all the exact same content there now.
Quick mention.
Oh my sweet fucking Jesus. I'm recording this literally 24 hours before this video is going to be completed, because Shayne has, and you're not going to believe this, gone back to doing the exact same thing he has been doing for God knows how fucking long. For a brief and fleeting moment, I naively believed that Shayne was about to do something respectable, that he was going to actually metabolize some of what I said and, maybe improve some of his content in some way. I mean, everything I just said here was recorded 2 weeks ago when Shayne was offline, and I assumed, oh, maybe he's actually thinking about this and he's going to come back and, just change his tune a little bit. bit. You know, maybe he'll stop preying on the poor and desperate using fear-mongering and conspiracy theories about 9/11. Well, wouldn't that have been fucking nice? I want to show you guys a fucking graph. Are you ready for this? Okay, you guys remember this graph, the one that shows Shayne's insane post schedule, where he posts, you know, like fucking 30 times in a day. Well, here's that video schedule again, updated to August 10th, when part 2 of this series came out. You'll notice that on August 2nd, the day before the first part came out, Shayne posted 50 motherfucking videos in one day. 50 of them, 5 goddamn 0. Now, Shayne posted 19 videos on the 10th when part 2 came out, and after that, he went radio silent. And I was thinking to myself, wow, he must really be willing to change, you know? Nope. If we will expand this graph to see the large gap, Shayne resumed posting videos almost 15 days later on August 24th, when he posted 26 videos. And on August 27th, literally yesterday from me filming this dude posted more than 80 goddamn videos. Well, what are these videos, Milo? Has he decided that it's time to, you know, start talking about the real problems? No, the videos are exactly the fucking same. Psuedoarchaeology, chemtrails, fear-mongering about Hurricane Erin, because why the fuck not? My editing team and I even had the fun experience of taking a little stroll over to Shayne's live streams on his Rumble, just to see what kind of tomfoolery he was up to over there. And wouldn't you know it, 9/11 conspiracy theories.
Something happened. What happened? The towers were hit by something and they appeared to be falling. Let's go to the 20. And now they've fallen even more.
Holy crappers, dude.
I don't know why I'm surprised by any of this. A surprising critique that I see a lot from people in my audience is, Milo, I don't know why you have so much patience with these people, which I'm always surprised to see because I view myself as being kind of a fucking dickhead all the time. But I think there's some truth in that. I do genuinely believe that everyone deserves a chance to improve. I think it's unreasonable to condemn someone outright the very first time you bring something to their attention. After all, giving them the benefit of the doubt, you can hope that they were just unaware of it. And now that you've made them aware of it, maybe they can, you know, change their actions. It's really what someone does after raising your concerns to them that should be a reflection of who they are as a person. And I think that that is the case here. I think that this is an immaculate reflection of Shayne as a person. Like almost every other conspiracy grifter, Shayne's ego has galvanized him against anything that would stand to change his point of view. And he falls into the same trap of the rest of them in viewing, taking accountability for his actions and altering them in the future as somehow being letting the mainstream win. He'd much rather double, triple, and quadruple down than admit any wrongdoing or fault whatsoever, because to do that is against what the, you know, conspiracy theorist code of ethics is. The conspiracy theorist code of ethics, that's an interesting concept. Shayne, I'm gonna be totally honest, I don't even think you need to watch this video. If nothing that I have said in the 4 hours I've spent talking about you has gotten through your skull up until now, nothing I say in this video will either. So I've included one tiny last little message to you at the very end of this video. Here's the timestamp for it. Fucking go there. And the only thing I'll say to you right now, Shayne, is that accountability is a good thing. If you're surrounded by a group of people who view changing your opinions on anything as a bad thing, you are surrounded by the wrong group of people. And I know you're probably going to say, well, that's how science works, but it quite literally is not. Science is looking at as much evidence as possible and then using your brain to come to an informed decision. If you're able to listen to me absolutely shred every geology conspiracy theory you've ever said using facts and fucking figures, and you write all of it off because I had a mainstream geologer on it, chances are you're in a fucking echo chamber. Taking like a 10-day break from video creation and then returning to it only to say all of the exact same bullshit and post 80 videos in a single day is the kind of obstinance that I'd expect from a fucking 15-year-old. But you're a grown-ass man, Shayne. You're fucking 6 years my senior. I would expect you to be a little bit more mature than this. Anyway, that's all I have to say for you right now. Skip to this fucking timestamp and I'll see you there. Why do I even fucking try, right? Why do I even fucking try? Good God fucking damn it. Hi guys, how's it going again? Jesus, we're still doing this, aren't we? Y'all, after the last episode, I kind of hit like a breaking point. After discussing, you know, health conspiracies and predatory marketing, I felt like there wasn't really much more to be said. I mean, like, preying on the sick and poor and desperate is like kind of as bad as it gets. So like, I don't know, like, what's the point of talking about a pyramid at this point, you know? That was also probably the most heated I've ever been in a video, which you guys definitely clocked. But in reading the response to this video in the comments, it confirmed for me that this was not an overreaction. I received countless comments and emails from people sharing really personal stories about friends and family who fell for the same health conspiracies that Shayne was peddling. They were honestly fucking gut-wrenching, and I really want to thank everyone who shared some of these really personal things. You did not have to do that, but reading about how many viewers had personally lost friends and family to health and vaccine misinformation was just fucking devastating, honestly. And it kind of left me thinking, need I say more? I mean, creationism and pseudoarchaeology sort of pales in comparison to Shayne helping spread misinformation that has led to the death of family members of people in my audience. That said, I had still promised another video on creationism and another one on pseudoarchaeology, so I was like, God damn it, I have to do something with this stuff. But I could not stand making 2 more videos on this fucking guy because I am so goddamn tired of it, so I decided to make this instead. This one is gonna be the big one. It covers the rest of creationism and all of pseudoarchaeology. And to lighten the mood, since we went a little bit heavy last time, this one's gonna be a little bit lighter. Some good old-fashioned Google debunking, a palate cleanser, an amuse-bouche, if you will. I don't know if an amuse-bouche is a palate cleanser. I think it's an appetizer. Well, it sounds good. No one knows what it means. Who the fuck even speaks French? So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's shake off... Wow. We're really making progress here. I'm kidding, it literally hasn't changed at all since the last time. This has been... a battle is an understatement. Shayne doesn't understand biology. Les boogie woogie.
Did you know that most of the bones at museums of dinosaurs are made of plaster, and it's actually a replica of what they found in the wild?
Wow, tickle me shocked, but we're starting off with something that Shayne is correct about? Shayne, you're actually correct about that. There are many dinosaur bones in museums that are replicas of what they found in the wild. And as you probably know, there's actually a very interesting reason for this. But something tells me that you're not bringing this up to tell that very interesting reason. You're bringing this up to try and make it seem like dinosaurs are a hoax. Right? This is a pretty run-of-the-mill dinosaur denial strat that I've seen quite a bit. Some dinosaur bones are replicas, quickly turns into dinosaur bones are fake, which very quickly turns into dinosaurs never existed.
Oh my god! Yes! Let's go! Let's go, baby! Come on!
It's a very bizarre strategy, but since you can't rely on any of these people to actually explain this to you, I am going to do it for them. So why is it that so many dinosaur bones are fake? Shayne, I'm so glad that you asked. You're such an inquisitive mind, and I love that about you. Almost every single dinosaur fossil, especially the really big ones, are incomplete. I mean, these things have been kicking around in the ground for like tens to hundreds of millions of years, so it kind of makes sense. And so finding a complete skeleton is astronomically fucking rare. But of course, when a dinosaur fossil is discovered, it's still a wealth of knowledge, and museums want to display them. So in order to display them, they fill in the gaps in the fossil with replica bones. They do this so that it's easier for the public to be able to learn from them. At least that would be the hope. I'd love to hear Shayne's take on the ship of Theseus. How many bones on this dinosaur do I need to replace before Shayne will think that dinosaurs never existed? But there's something even funnier about this video than just that, and that is the image that Shayne chose for this one. This is an image of Sue from the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago. And Sue is one of the most complete T-Rex skeletons ever discovered. When she was discovered, she was 90% complete. This is pretty impressive considering that most dinosaur fossils are found with about half of their bones. Not only was this one of the most complete dinosaur fossils ever found, but it is also one of the most complete dinosaur fossils on display. So what you're looking at in this image is almost entirely actual dinosaur bones. There are a few bones on the feet and shoulders of this one that are replicas, because those are the ones that were never found, and the skull on this one is also a replica because the real skull is in a separate display. But either way, this is probably the single worst example that Shayne could have picked to try and make the point that dinosaurs aren't real because they have replica bones. Because he picked the example with like the most actual bones possible. I have to keep asking myself whether or not Shayne knows he's doing this. Like, it's just wrong on so many levels, like it has to be intentional. The fact that some dinosaur bones are replicas dinosaurs does not mean that dinosaurs are a hoax. There is a very logical reason for this, but instead, Shayne chose to broadcast his ignorance without even bothering to look into it at all and challenging his worldview. What a fucking shocker.
Now, there's a new term called dinosaur deniers. Apparently, a lot of people are denying their very existence, but how could you when you can see it so clearly right there? Of course they existed, right?
There's a new term called dinosaur denier. No, this is not a new term at all. Maybe this was a new term in like the early 19th century when dinosaurs were first being discovered, but now that's pretty rare considering that most of the world is, you know, educated enough to know that they existed. But that's not really the point. The point is the conspiracy theorist tone that he's using. A lot of people are denying their existence. No, they really aren't. I promise you. Most people are not. You are, and you want other people to deny them as well because you're trying to sell them things. So the way you do that is by making them think there's like this cool counterculture undercurrent going against the mainstream that like, you want to be part of this cool club? There's a lot of people over here denying dinosaurs. Why don't you come sit with the cool kids? Shayne, it is lame. You are not part of like, you know, the anonymous fucking like undercurrent changing the paradigm. The conspiracy theorist yearns to be oppressed.
Well, it's true that before the 1800s, no one called them dinosaurs. They were considered to be dragons, and they were also considered to be much, much more recent in history, alive, walking around.
Yo, what? Wait, what? I'm sorry. What? In the 1800s, they weren't called dinosaurs, they were called dragons. Yeah, they were called all kinds of things before people knew what they were. What? I'll walk you through this one, Shayne. I promise. It'll be easy, even for you. Dinosaur bones are found all over the place because they existed. And so people have been coming into contact with dinosaur bones for a very long time. And since these people didn't have the complex scientific understanding of the world that we do today, they had to find other explanations for them. So they called them things like dragons and griffins and giants. Famously, there's the skulls from the extinct elephants of the Mediterranean islands that were used to back up folklore about cyclopses. Yeah, I know those ones aren't dinosaurs, but it's a very similar phenomenon. And of course, people thought they must have existed much more recently because they didn't have a complex understanding of science. They didn't know anything about biology, geology, evolution, Earth history, any of that shit. So they didn't have a great way to explain this stuff. So all of these things which very much exist all got their own explanations in the folklores of the cultures that discovered them. It wasn't until 1842 that Richard Owen would coin the term dinosaur because he was discovering what it was that they actually were. So while calling them dragons or griffins or whatever is outdated science now, it was actually like the early stages of science, of humanity trying to explain our surroundings with whatever logic we could get together. But what Shayne is doing here is not pointing out this sort of interesting development of our scientific understanding from folklore to, you know, a real explanation in the scientific world. Instead, he's going, dinosaurs are a lie. Source? Well, the people who didn't know that they'd be called dinosaurs called them something other than dinosaurs. Checkmate, paleontologists. Crazy move to just be a science denier by just citing like really, really, really outdated science. This argument is just so fucking stupid, and it's just a profoundly weird thing to do.
Keep in mind, China's calendar, they have 11 common living animals: ox, goat, chicken, fish, snake, and then there's a dragon on there.
This is a little nitpick, Shayne. I'm sorry to do this to you, but there's no fish on the Chinese calendar. This would have been a really easy one to check. Like, this doesn't even require, like really Googling. This is just like looking at an image of it. I thought maybe that he mistook the snake for a fish, but then immediately after saying fish, he says snake. So I guess not. This doesn't really matter, but I figured I'd say it because, I mean, what? Am I gonna start caring about the fucking runtime of these videos now? I told you, I'm in too deep. Dragon bones. I'd rather be dragging my bone across broken glass than keep listening to Shayne talk, frankly. I'm so sick of seeing conspiracy people using like other cultures like folklore and like belief to support their like anti-science bullshit. And I think that it's especially ironic in this case where like I have a sneaking suspicion that the thousands upon thousands of Chinese scientists who have been at like the cutting edge of science, technology, and engineering and math for hundreds to thousands of years would not be super keen on this guy bastardizing their folklore in order to try and walk humanity back into the dark ages. But hey, Shayne, you know what? Don't let me yuck your yum. If a dragon being on the Chinese calendar is enough for you to believe that dragons existed, you're gonna love this one. Check this shit out. The Boston State House has a unicorn on it. Wake up, Shayne. You're talking about the wrong issues. There's unicorns out there right now. You gotta hop on this, Shayne. No one else is talking about this. Why is it that there's a unicorn on the Boston State House? Is there something that they're just not telling us? You see, unicorns historically have been a sign of fertility, but today,
men's sperm counts are lower than they've ever been.
hey, that was actually pretty good. See, Shayne, I'm starting to learn your craft pretty damn well.
So all these bones were considered to be dragon bones until this guy came up with the term dinosaur, and now they tell us that they're hundreds of millions of years old. But
this guy came up with the name, and now they tell you they're hundreds of millions of years old. Yeah, Shayne, that's called a scientist discovering something and then giving a name to the thing that they discovered. What planet are you from? If you wanted to try and, disprove the field of paleontology, I would first suggest you maybe begin with learning something about it, because I don't buy it may be a good enough argument for your brainwashed flock, but over here in reality, you're gonna need a little bit more than that.
how do they tell you, how do they know they're hundreds of millions of years old? Well, this is where the science gets a little bit shaky. One way is they use absolute dating. They use radiometric, they basically detect radioactive decay of elements, and then they tell you how old it is based on that. However, when they did radiometric reads on the lava that came out of Mount St. Helens in 1980s, it came back between 350,000 to 2.8 million years old, fresh lava, which called into question the reliability about this method.
Oh God, okay. Quick little thing here again, Shayne. I know I'm nitpicking you, but I gotta do it. There was no lava in Mount St. Helens. Mount St. Helens is a gray volcano, and so it had mud and ash and like a pyroclastic flow. We know this because there are people who study volcanoes and they know a lot of things about them, and you can reference the things that those people have learned about volcanoes in order to understand reality better. Now, Shayne really loves this talking point. You'll remember that he brought it up in part 1. In fact, we already had none other than Kate Larson, a
mainstream geologer
and a wonderful geology communicator here on the social media world, talk about this point and talk about why what Shayne is saying here is absolutely crazy. Okay, let's have a quick little look at the comments of this video, because they're great. I've been saying this forever, and I'm a fossil hunter. I find it really hard to believe these inconsistencies I hear from the science community. That is actually a new level of willful ignorance. How the fuck could a fossil hunter not believe in, dating of rocks and minerals? Well, you're a shit fossil hunter then. Well, actually, no, you might be a very good fossil hunter, but finding fossils is the easy part. Understanding it is the thing you actually need to study. Again, people have been finding fossils all the time, and they attributed them to dragons. So you just finding fossils does not give you the authority to say that you know more than the people that actually study them. I hate to say it. I own and operate a cell phone. That does not mean that I know everything about how a cell phone works. Okay, dude, I only noticed this after filming and when my editors pointed it out, but this fucking comment was by Fishing Garrett. You know that kid on Instagram Reels who's always bothering wildlife and saying yoink? Yeah, that fucking guy. Yo, Garrett, if you're watching this for whatever reason, I literally viewed you as like an up-and-coming Steve Irwin till I saw this. This is mad disappointing, dude. You teach about ecology and wildlife conservation and biology, and people listen to you. You got a massive amount of influence. So how are you going to be doing all that and being like a wildlife science communicator and then deny science? What's that about? Look, I know you're from Florida, so I'm sure the indoctrination runs a little deep down there, but I promise that you, with your level of expertise, should have absolutely no problem challenging this part of your worldview. So dude, from me and all of us here, fucking don't with this shit, all right? You can do better than this. I believe in you that you can do better than this. I can't believe it. I'm shooketh. The true history of our realm is stranger than fiction. The truth is slowly being revealed. Appreciate all the content, Shayne. You know, this isn't the point this person is trying to make, but they're actually right. The true history of our realm is fucking incredible, and we are now slowly starting to discover it because we have science. We are finally challenging the dogmas of blind faith with objective science and reasoning. And we're learning all kinds of really interesting things. And you'll find that if you dig into some of these real and interesting things, you will learn things that are real and interesting. Someone asks, what would be the actual point of denying dragons and making up dinosaurs? For what purpose? Whoa. That is way too simple and logical of a question. Can't you see that we're just trying to do science denial grifting here? Don't think about it too much. And then, drum roll please, for my absolute favorite comment. Ta-da! Ta-da! That's crazy. That's crazy. Jews planted the bones to decrease your faith. Jews planted the bones to decrease your faith. That's crazy. I mean, putting aside the obvious, everything about that, how would a group of people coordinate the ability to plant these bones, How were they planting them back when people thought they were dragons? Like thousands upon thousands of years ago before, you know, the faith system existed. Sorry, I'm asking too many questions here. This is blind hatred towards people. This is where I want to address Shayne personally. Shayne, I know you're watching this, at least if you've decided to continue live watching my videos on your live stream on Rumble, which is brave. I commend you for doing that. But if you're watching this right now, I want to mention that, like, if you're getting comments like this, like, you should probably, like, think about that. That's probably not, like, a good thing. So while you may not be, like, outright encouraging comments like this, if you're turning a blind eye to it, you kind of are. You know, I'm honestly kind of pissed about this, guys. I'm gonna be real. You know, as someone here who's been fighting for the Rothschild, Rockefeller, woke Marxist, neo-Marxist agenda, you know, I have never got an email saying, you know, "Shalom, Milo, you want to take a spin flying the space laser?" This is the thanks I get. Jesus. One quick little thing here also for the section about creationism. This is not an attack on religion or Christianity or any other religion or anything like that. You can be able to believe in everything within a faith system and still be able to believe in science. My criticism here is not of religion, it is of science denial that is using religion as a shield to exempt itself from criticism. If anything, creationism is the true insult to religion because it works to obscure what we have discovered about the beauty of God's creation. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into it.
Did you know if you're a teacher at a public school and you don't believe in this one particular thing, and you make that known, you will soon find yourself looking for work. You will be fired.
Did you know that if you don't believe in this one particular thing... Sorry, that was super unprofessional. I don't know what came over me. All right, let's go. Evolution denial. Whew, buckle up. So his thing here is, if you don't believe in the state-mandated ideology of evolution, you will be fired. I know I said this earlier, but the science denier just yearns to be oppressed. This is just more classic scaremongering to try and make it seem like science is some big, you know, omnipotent entity that's going to cancel and silence you. But to your point, Shayne, that is a lie. You cannot be fired for not believing in evolution. You have the right to believe whatever the fuck you want. Now, if by don't believe in this one particular thing, you mean are preaching to children in a classroom about creationism, then yeah, you totally could get fired. Whoa, see, there's the proof. It's a state-mandated ideology. It's protected by the establishment. No, Shayne, it's because you're preaching your religion in a classroom. You are overstepping your boundaries as a teacher by preaching your religion to other people's children in a classroom. This would happen to anyone of any religion. This exact issue has gone to court many, 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 many times. You would know that if you bothered to look up a goddamn thing that you ever say. And almost every single time, the court has sided with the fucking school that you should not be preaching to children in a classroom. What you're doing here is trying to scaremonger religious people into thinking that there's some persecuted, oppressed group and that science is this big entity that's out to crush them under their boot heel. But Shayne, if you really think that science is somehow incompatible with your faith-based worldview, which it isn't, then why don't you can send your kids to a private school where they can teach them wherever they want. Or better yet, you can homeschool them, and then you can personally indoctrinate them with whatever propaganda you want. I also love the implication here as being like, you know, this potential biology teacher getting fired because they don't believe in evolution, which is just a ridiculous premise off the bat, because an understanding of evolution is like fundamental to the understanding of biology and ecology and genetics. So I don't know how the fuck an evolution denier would become a biologist. Not very well, is how they would. Either way, Shayne, this argument is childish, it's victimizing, and it's not even grounded in fucking reality.
And you may be thinking, well, are we talking about evolution here? Because evolution's been proven. Who would possibly not believe that? And if they don't believe that, they shouldn't be in a position to teach children. Well, let's talk about this for a second. The theory of evolution is protected by the establishment. That should make you wonder.
Oh my god. It is not protected by the establishment, Shayne. You are not going to be arrested for not believing in evolution. You can believe whatever the fuck you want. Nobody cares. All that is being asked of you is to leave your religious convictions at the door when teaching science to children. Again, this is the case with every religion. Whether you are Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, or worship fucking Ra, this would be what is asked of you. Let me put it like this for you, Shayne, and I want you to listen to this very carefully. And if you are listening to this live on stream, I want you to actually, like, respond to this. I want you to think about what I'm about to say to you. Imagine for a moment that every single religion on the planet disappeared. Religion would unquestionably come back. It would come back in thousands of forms in different cultures and countries around the world, just like we have seen the thousands of different religions that have arisen for all of human history as direct reflections of their environment and their beliefs and their values. Now imagine for a second if science disappeared off the face of the earth. Science would also come back, but it would come back the same. Every single thing under the umbrella of science, from eclipses to electricity to the internal combustion engine, are all objective. And so, even if our understanding of science disappeared, all of those objective things are still there, waiting to be rediscovered, which is why there are thousands upon thousands of religions, and there is science. Yes, it has multiple fields, but it's more or less one homogeneous body because it is based on objective reality. That is not to say that science and religion are incompatible with one another. Religion serves a different purpose. It gives us meaning and clarity and motivation, while science is working to prove and disprove things to further humanity's technological and scientific understanding. This is why science is taught in schools, Shayne, because as much as you don't want to believe it, science is the study of objective reality. If religions disappeared, thousands of religions would come back. And if science disappeared, science would come back. Go ahead, respond to that to your audience. Think about it. Really, I'm stopping here. Think about it, please. I don't want you to just gloss over these things. I want you to really metabolize this. That's a good enough answer. Let's keep going.
But evolution also suggests that life came from non-living things. Where did it begin? And secondly, evolution in our world today has never been observed.
Oh, wow, that's refreshing. Shayne is lying again. When his source isn't people hundreds of years ago who had no idea what they're talking about, his source is, I made it the fuck up. I just have a hard time believing it, so I'm gonna lie about it. I cannot believe how much evolution denial is hinged on people just saying evolution has never been observed, because it's literally just a lie. We observe it all the goddamn time. I think a lot of this is based on a lot of evolution deniers having a misconception of what evolution is. You know, you get videos of Kent Hovind and stuff being like, why is it that a whale has never given birth to a pine tree? And it's like, well, Kent, it's because you are a fucking moron. So of course evolution like that has never been observed, because that's not evolution. That is the ravings of an insane preacher. But we actually see evolution all the fucking time, from laboratory experiments to the fucking grocery store. Let's take the brassicas, for example, Shayne. Actually, you know what, Shayne? We're gonna do something fun. I wanna take you on a little walk to my garden, and together we're gonna learn something new about science.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to my garden. Pretty nice, no? Pretty damn proud of this. We got all kinds of fun stuff out here. We got our tomatoes are just starting to come in. Look at that. Beautiful. Look at that. Fungal blight. I think the only solution is to spray all of my crops with atrazine. Oh my God, look at it's so heavy, it's falling over. Okay, what was I out here to do? I was here to talk about brassicas. This right here is a cabbage. These are actually all cabbages of varying degrees. And if we turn over here to this bed, these, oh, and that's a cabbage white. Huh, that's two cabbage whites. What do you know? But if we look in the bed next to it, we have this, which you will probably recognize as broccoli. And if you look over here, you'll see the broccoli that I didn't pick in time, and it all went to flower. It's very beautiful though, look at that. There's bees on it. How interesting. Now the reason that I want to show this is to highlight something very interesting, which is that these are both the exact same species. What? But they look so different. I know, it's pretty fucking crazy. These right here are called brassicas, and they are both derived from the exact same wild plant. So even though they look really different, these are actually the exact same plant. Oh, and the sun is out, how nice. Wow, I see why plants do this. This is lovely. Broccoli and cabbage also aren't the only members of this species. Cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, I think, is kale one of them? I don't know about that. But either way, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and a few others are all the exact same species. The reason that all of these varieties of brassica look so different is because humans have selectively bred them for different purposes. As you can see with the cabbage, we bred in favor of selecting for this really big leaf ball. Whereas with broccoli, we didn't select for the leaves, instead we selected for the flowering head. You can almost kind of see the resemblance, right? Like this sort of leaf structure that's unfurling is the same thing that's going on here. So if we were to let this go to seed, which, let's be honest, I probably will accidentally end up doing, in the middle of all these leaves is where the flower would come out, which is exactly what's happening here with the broccoli. And this is the same with the other brassicas as well. Like with Brussels sprouts, they grow on that really long stalk and they're these kind of little like leaf balls on the ends. That's because we selected for tall stems and really dense leaf buds that almost turn into mini cabbages. So again, even though you might not know it just by looking at them, all of them are the exact same species, just selectively bred for different traits. So that right there is a little example of selective breeding and evolution in practice that you can see in the grocery store. Also, not to get too ahead of myself here, y'all, but I know I was talking about the Homestead channel for a while, and first video's in the works. I'm doing a video covering not knowing a goddamn thing about gardening and learning a lot in the first year. So if you want to see me trial and error garden, stay tuned. Hopefully that'll be up probably by like late fall once everything is done and we get the Homestead channel off the ground. So stay tuned for that. Okay, time to head back into the studio. Everyone say bye to my pumpkin. Bye, pumpkin.
Thanks for the visit, Shayne. Really appreciate you taking the walk with me. There are countless other examples of this. Why do you think we have so many breeds of dogs? I know that you're gonna go with the Kent Hovind thing of being like, there's a difference between kinds and species, but that's you just fucking mincing words to try and get away from having to actually explain any of this genetically. The reason we have multiple different types of dogs is because all of them were derived from the same fucking dog and we gave them selective evolutionary pressure to all look different. Dog genetics is an example of evolution. Do you think that God created a pug? No, no merciful God would ever fucking do that. The different breeds of dogs we have, to the different varieties of corn and potatoes that we have, to even the immense diversity of phenotypic traits that humans have, is all thanks to evolution and genetics. If you see and acknowledge that selective breeding changes organisms, like, you know, tiny wild grass being selectively bred into corn, which is something that we have an actual record of, or dogs being selectively bred to create different breeds, these are things that you cannot deny because they happen right in front of you, then you believe in genetics and that change can happen between generations. And if change can happen between generations over a short period of time, what the fuck do you think is going to happen over a long period of time? This is like the thing you said in part 1 about like, well, I believe that, you know, there's some fault lines and earthquakes and stuff. You know, I don't know if I believe in this whole plate tectonics thing. It's like, if there's a fucking earthquake and the land slips like this, do you think it's gonna heal and like go back? No, if it slips like that in a human lifetime, imagine what it'll do over millions of fucking years. I'm so sick of this argument of just like, nuh-uh. But I mean, this goes to show how pitiful the anti-evolution argument is, because they don't have a leg to stand on. Literally all they can do is say, it's not real, it's never been observed, when it has, because they don't want to actually look into it at all, because it would challenge their worldview. It's very sad, honestly. As for that last part, Shayne mentions the origin of life, of where did it come from, which is the other classic God of the gaps argument that every creationist ever gives to try and disprove evolution. If you can't tell me exactly where life started, then nothing is real. Firstly, there is an immense amount of work being done in origin of life research. I'm sure Shayne is very familiar with all of it. It seems that he's really taken the time to learn about this topic before slandering it. But be that as it may, not knowing the exact moment of the origin of life does not discredit the multitude of well-substantiated discoveries and processes that we have found in the fields of biology, evolution, and genetics. And again, like I just said, it's a God of the gaps thing where Shayne's like, aha, there's the one place that science hasn't discovered yet, and so that's where God is. Go ahead and believe in the God of the gaps if you want, Shayne, but your God of the gaps does not disprove everything that we actually know. It's like if I were to make Shayne a cake, and I could tell him every single ingredient that went into it, all of the measurements, the exact chemistry that caused the cake to rise in the way that it did. But since I don't know what farm the wheat came from, Shayne doesn't believe that the cake exists. Hey, Instagram Reels, if you can't tell me the origin of life right now, then I know more than every biologist on the planet. Wow, you're so real for that, Shayne. You're so real. I really wish I had that level of confidence. I'd be able to make content as quickly as Shayne does. I'd never have to research anything. I wouldn't have to script any of my videos. I could just make shit up and people would believe me. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, the Glen Rose footprints. God damn it. Where is the folder with Shayne's list of atrocities?
Did you know about this spot in Texas which contradicts the official story of, well, just watch.
Dude, what? It contradicts the official story? I don't know, there was an official story. Oh my God, and it says shocking fact disrupts narrative of history. That is like full conspiracy word bingo. I've talked about doing a conspiracy bingo card for so fucking long and I haven't done it. I haven't fucking done it. Maybe I'll do one for this video and I'll release it before. Let's be honest, I'm not gonna fucking remember to do that. All right, Shayne, what you got for me? I'm sure you're about to hit us with some real groundbreaking stuff.
In Glen Rose, Texas, they've got a river running through town called the Paluxy River.
Oh, god damn it, it's fucking Kent Hovind again. Shayne absolutely loves this guy, as you won't be surprised, because Kent Hovind, like Shayne, is not a scientist, but a preacher. And the site he's talking about here is one that I've actually already talked about. It's the Paluxy River footprints. I talked about it in my Creationist Footprint Conspiracies video. It was the 4th episode of Awful Archaeology that I did back in, like, the winter of 2022. February of 2022. Oh god, I said the words, I said Awful Archaeology. Everyone go ahead and say it. Everyone go ahead and say it, I'll fucking wait. Yep, yes, I know. Yep, I know. I'm working on it, I know. You know, someone pointed out the sheer audacity of me giving H-Bomber guy shit for never making videos when I've been, you know, I'm coming up on 2 years for the Atlantis episode of Awful Archaeology, so, you know what? Touché, viewer, touché. You are not wrong about this. Look, I didn't expect Shayne to take up this much of my goddamn brain space, okay? I'm not any more happy about this than you are. I'm kidding, you're actually probably pretty happy about this. I think these videos are pretty solid. These are what's to be expected of Milo Rossi content, you know? So I've debunked this whole thing before, and you should go watch that video, if for no other reason, to see how far we've come. Editors, why don't you play a clip of that?
Jingle jingle, I have this gigantic wheel, and it is entirely covered in archaeological-based conspiracy theories. That name is heavily up for debate. It's got things you know about, like Atlantis and the Baghdad Battery, until he was interrupted by a mild inconvenience known as World War I. Cataclysmic pole shift hypothesis, which frankly I don't want to know anything about Charles Hapgood's pole or why it shifts. New series. I think as it stands right now, I'm going to call it Awful Archaeology. The Grave Creek Stone. Spin that wheel, Big Papa!
Ancient aliens, son of... and I talk about whatever it lands on in depth. The last time I spun the Wheel of Pain... Where is my Sharpie? God fucking damn it. I was really hoping that Atlantis would be like the last thing that would come up on this wheel. All right, folks, well, the wheel has spoken. Looks like next time I'm gonna have to talk about Atlantis. Wow, really profound to just see where we are now. Okay, I'm gonna just play like a highlights reel of this clip, because if you guys are anything like me, a prolonged time listening to Kent Hovind talk will make me feel like I'm starting to develop early onset dementia. So we're gonna spare you of that and just give you the highlights.
There were 15 to 20 inch long, clearly defined human footprints with the dinosaur tracks. One of the best human tracks still had the dermal ridges, I mean, like the fingerprints on the toes. You could see them, they were extremely clear for the first few months. This guy said, finding dinosaur and human footprints together would counter evidence that humans evolved long after dinosaurs. I agree. And would back up the claim that all species, including man, were created at one time.
Okay, firstly, there is no way in hell that fingerprint textures were left behind in this fossil. That is absolutely not possible. Fingerprint textures are almost impossible to preserve in just a normal footprint in a mucky surface underwater. For that to then preserve for millions of years, as he's claiming, absolute bullshit. You're a liar. Now, I'm not going to talk about all of this because, again, it had its own video, but I want to talk about this one in particular. It's called the Alvin Delk print. Sorry, the Alvis Delk print. The Alvis Delk print. This piece is in the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas, where you expect all good science to be. Unlike the other human footprints found along the Paluxy River that are very obviously just weathered dinosaur footprints, this one actually looks pretty convincing. So, is it? Why the fuck are you looking at me like that? What do you think? This print was allegedly found in 2001 by a guy called Alvis Delk, and he said he found it not in like a dinosaur trackway, but as like its own broken rock off to the side of the river. Allegedly, he took this 140-pound dinosaur footprint and hauled it all the way back home to his personal collection. And also allegedly didn't notice the human footprint in front of the dinosaur footprint, which I don't even know how that's really possible. He not only didn't notice the human footprint, which seems astronomical to me, but he also didn't report this print to anyone or try and, like, you know, sell it or donate it to a research institution. It was kind of just like in his collection, allegedly. Fast forward to 2008 and our boy Delk falls off a ladder and he needed to pay for some medical bills because we live in America where we don't take care of anyone. At this point, he finds the dinosaur footprint in his collection. He, you know, cleans it off a little, and wouldn't you know it, there's a human footprint on it. And so, of course, this groundbreaking piece of fossil evidence was sold to Charles Baugh at the Creation Evidence Museum. Awesome. And Baugh, of course, not giving a flying fuck about its authenticity, just put it right alongside the rest of the propaganda in his museum. Now, as far as this print goes, it looks like a fucking cartoon. The toe prints are all at different depths, and the fucking, like, toe thumb thumb toe, is like really, really deep. Also in the images, you can see that the other toes like bisect multiple layers of strata, which is not something that would happen if this was a footprint compressed into wet sediment, because this is only possible to do once the layers of sediment have hardened into like strata in a rock. The foot shape is also really angular, which is not how a human foot is, which is much more curvy. And lastly, it's completely static. See, archaeologists find footprints and trackways all the time, but they're dynamic. People are stepping in wet mud, and so fossilized footprints are often kind of like deformed and skidded from people slipping around in the mud. And more importantly, they also have like ridges and valleys and these little areas where mud was like pushed up next to them. None of this is present on this trackway, which is a little fucking weird. Now, as far as the theropod footprint, the dinosaur footprint next to it, looks pretty good for someone that doesn't know anything about fucking dinosaurs, but if you compare it next to an actual theropod footprint, it looks like shit. The length ratio between the actual like pad of the foot and the toes is completely off, and this footprint also goes through multiple layers of strata, which again is only possible to do once it wasn't mud, it was rock. So what I'm trying to say here is that huge fucking surprise, it's a fake. It was a forgery that was made by a guy so he could sell it to a fucking brainwashed conspiracy propagandist at a creation evidence museum so that he could afford his fucking healthcare treatment from falling off a ladder. If that isn't the most American shit you've ever heard in your life, then I don't know what the fuck is. Guys, this system works great. We have people making up science misinformation hoaxes to sell them to crazy religious extremists so they can pay for their fucking healthcare. Awesome, guys, this is great. We're really nailing this whole thing. In this video, Kent Hovind, of course, says, none of these are carved, which is just a lie. He's a fucking liar. He's a preacher. He literally runs a business off of fucking lying. I don't know what to tell you. And Shayne, of course, being a third eye open free thinker, is quoting a preacher who supports his ideology and then not bothering to look into it any further whatsoever, and then just regurgitating the same propaganda to his audience instead of bothering to look into any of it literally at all, and claiming that he knows more than actual science. It's, you know, it's admirable to a degree to have that level of cockiness. Let's look at a thesaurus, shall we? Arrogance, that's the word I was looking for. Arrogance, his chutzpah, his disdain, his ego, his egotism, his hubris, his pretension, his pride, his smugness, and his vanity. There we go, how's that? One of those words got to apply. Okay, anyway, let's see what sorts of pearls of wisdom Shayne has to interject after just allowing this preacher to make a video for him.
So if we're lied to about this, imagine what they're lying to us about with the food and water supply, which is why I take the hot water purified shilajit, clinically studied to support healthy detoxification and boost fertility massively.
Oh my God. Oh, I could see it coming a mile away, but it hits me like a truck every time. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
The caption of this video from Shayne is dinos, or perhaps ancient reptilians. Wow, really grasping at the fucking straws here, Shayne. But I guess fair enough. I mean, they're reptiles, so maybe they are ancient reptilians, but I know that's not what you mean by it, unfortunately. Are you sure it was dinosaurs and not dragons? Avatar was a documentary. Dr. Kent Hovind is brilliant.
Oh my God.
Shayne's comment section never ceases to be just the most nightmare blunt rotation on the planet. Would it be unethical to get like, you know, a select group of people from Shayne's comment section and then put them in isolation and see what kind of civilization arises from their worldviews? I think it would be very interesting. Dinosaurs and big monsters existed in the old world, but to make the new world, they were all slayed by nobilities, knights, and moved to millions of years in the past. They also pass away naturally as the environment doesn't suit them. Every so often, there is a grand conflagration between all things, between the two essences. Sometimes the sun or moon is replaced, or sometimes the sky vault shatters and monsters come forth. Says in the Kolbrin how the strong men that came from the west underworld slayed the giants, who perhaps also had their own origin. This view subscribes to the idea of inner earth and realms of heaven that are right above us, and when the great pole flip destruction comes, normally by fire or water, the window to above and below are open for a brief period and many mythical things occur. 2 likes. What the fuck? I don't even know what to say to that. You see what I mean, guys? Like, what am I even supposed to say to this? Like, you're like, Milo, the big funny guy, come on out. He's gonna read some funny comments, he's gonna look at some crazy shit, but like, you gotta understand that sometimes this shit is so crazy that I can't even say anything funny about it. It's just like, did you listen to anything I just said? That's the punchline. Okay, we're gonna do one more of these videos before we introduce a very special guest. You know him. I announced him in the last video. And you'll see him in a minute.
Okay, so this is crazy. There's a plant that protects itself from insects by shaping its leaves like hummingbirds. But no one is asking the important question, how does the plant know what a hummingbird looks like?
Oh! Okay, Shayne, I want you to listen to what I'm about to tell you very, very carefully. This plant does not know what a hummingbird looks like. You know what a hummingbird looks like, and since you have a pattern-recognizing brain, you think to yourself, wow, this plant kind of looks like a hummingbird. Both the caption of this post and the way that you're phrasing this indicates to me that either you have no concept of how evolution works, or you are willfully ignoring it in order to manipulate people. A plant cannot make a conscious decision to look like a hummingbird, or fucking anything else for that matter. Nobody on the entire planet is claiming that that is how evolution works, except for you, because you are poisoning the well to try and make it sound ridiculous so that the people who already don't believe it continue not believing it.
The natural world is so fascinating, and the fact we only understand a fraction of it, and that's evident by the situation that we're allowing billions of pounds of glyphosate, atrazine, and chemicals being sprayed in the food, air, and water supply.
Holy shit. Jesus Christ. I think that might be a record, at least in the videos I've seen. This video is 57 seconds long. He starts talking about the supplement sales pitch at 20 seconds in. Also, what was that thing he just said?
The natural world is so fascinating, and the fact we only understand a fraction of it.
Yeah, you know what, Shayne? You're so right. It is fascinating. But in this case, it seems that only understanding a fraction of it is entirely on you, because I can tell that you did not even bother to look up a single thing about this plant before making this fucking video. You just saw a tweet, saw that it was the same like kind of tier of creationism, science denial that you normally do, and then just decided to platform it anyway. Now, at first I assumed this was an example of biological mimicry, because this plant sort of looks like a bird, and you said this thing of like it deters insects by looking like a bird. Now, there are two kinds of biological mimicry, Müllerian mimicry and Batesian mimicry. Müllerian mimicry is where two animals that have a similar defense mechanism, like tasting bad or having a stinger or venom, will evolve to have a similar external appearance to deter predators, similar to how bees and wasps and yellow jackets have black and yellow stripes, or famously how the Heliconius genus of butterfly have these black and orange patterns that are all made to deter predators because they taste like shit. Batesian mimicry, on the other hand, is a lot more interesting. It's where an organism with no defenses at all will evolve to look like another organism that does have defenses in order to deter predation. Examples of this are things like hoverflies, many species of which have black and yellow patterns just like a wasp, but don't actually have any natural defense. There's also the viceroy butterfly, which is completely edible to most animals, but since it looks like the monarch butterfly, which is very toxic, it doesn't get eaten as much. And of course, there's a non-venomous scarlet king snake, which has similar colors and patterns to the much more venomous eastern coral snake. All of these are obviously not examples of a conscious decision made by an organism, but examples of evolution. Well, how, you may ask? How is it possible for this sort of thing to happen without the divine creator? It's fairly straightforward. I'm glad you asked. If an organism is harder to eat, it will be eaten less, and it will be able to reproduce more and pass on its genes. So there are many ways to be eaten less, from having a stinger, or horns, or armor plating, or simply looking like something that does have one of those things. So since animals have to worry about being eaten, evolution will select for traits that will keep them safer, and these are examples of that. While these are animal examples, there's also floral examples of this. Probably the most famous of these is the bee orchid, whose, I think it's the stamen, right? The male part of the plant. Either way, it's evolved to look like a bee. This is not because it made a conscious decision to look like a bee, but because since the more it looks like a bee, the more bees will land on it and pollinate it, and it will therefore pass on its genes. The trait of its stamen looking like a bee was selected for. not a conscious decision, but very cool. I was so ready to give this little lesson on biological mimicry and how it works, and give an explanation for why this plant looks this way. But once again, I have completely overestimated the degree to which Shayne even thinks about his own arguments. Because this is not even an example of biological mimicry. The fact that this plant has a superficial resemblance to a hummingbird is a complete fucking coincidence. This plant is called the parrot pea. Here's a photo of it with more of it on a vine so you can see that it doesn't really look like a bird most of the time. The parrot pea is native to Australia, and the fact that it looks like a hummingbird is a complete coincidence because there is very little ecological pressure for something to adopt the form and shape of a hummingbird, especially considering that it evolved on a continent that doesn't have any fucking hummingbirds. Look, here's another photo of it. Doesn't really look that much like a fucking hummingbird, does it? The reason for this is because it's a goddamn pea plant. It's a legume. Now, Shayne, I trust that you have some legumes on your homestead, obviously. And since you do, I trust that you've noticed how unique the flowers and leaves are of legumes. They sometimes have these sort of irregular, almost butterfly-looking flowers that are really beautiful. There's actually even a name for these types of flowers, one that I have to read off my laptop because I'm not gonna try this. Papilionaceous flowers. Papilionaceous flowers is what these are.
Papilionaceous.
Looking at this plant and saying that it looks like a hummingbird is similar to you looking at a cloud and saying that it looks like a horse. The cloud does not look like a horse. A horse looks like a horse. And when you look at that cloud, you notice a similarity between the shape of the cloud and the shape of a horse because you have a pattern-recognizing brain that supposedly makes humans very intelligent. None of this fucking matters at all, of course, because Shayne's audience, being the third eye open free thinkers that they are, obediently listen to exactly what he's saying to them and do not think to question it at all. And so the comments on this video of him talking about how a plant needs to be created by God to resemble a hummingbird are just completely flooded with people saying, yes, amen, God is the greatest, God is right, this must have been done by God. Ugh. God has kind of a weird sense of humor, doesn't he? Do you think that he created the pea plant that kind of looks like a hummingbird before or after he created breast cancer? Who knows, you know, God works in mysterious ways. I don't even have anything else to say on this. I think it's just such an incredible example of Shayne just having so little understanding of what it is he's talking about, but just talking about it anyway because people are gonna listen to him because they want to. It's kind of a fucking bummer, honestly. Okay. Whew, that was pretty fucking exhausting. Now, I have saved by far the most egregious videos for the latter half of this video. There are some in kind of the realm of biology and evolution that are so bad that I just couldn't suffer through them alone. And so I thought I needed to bring someone on to do this with me. And, of course, there was only one person for this job. And that is someone whose audience, alongside my audience, has been ceaselessly asking us to collaborate for fucking ever. And it's finally happening. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for none other than Professor Dave Explains.
He knows a lot about the science stuff. Professor Dave Explains.
Wow, well, here we are. Mr. Farina.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, Dave, good to be here with you today. Thanks for joining in. You want to give just a brief little bio of yourself and what kind of madness you get up to?
Yeah, my name's Dave Farina. I run a channel called Professor Dave Explains. I studied chemistry and taught chemistry, so it started out as chemistry tutorials, but then sort of quickly branched out into many other topics. And then around 2020, I want to say, I started getting to debunking through the Flat Earth community there, but then got into other stuff, and then we've crossed paths now that I have become invested in debunking the pseudoarchaeology cult. So, yeah.
And a cult
that's where the crossover lies. It definitely is. It's such a toxic cult. It's absolutely insane.
Well, we got an interesting one for you today, Dave. You know, this is a lot of the work that you do tends to deal with people that, deserving or not, at least have, you know, a pretty big platform. They're going on Joe Rogan. They're coming up with their own kind of theories of whatever crazy bullshit it is they're doing. But today we're talking about an account that is pretty much a scattershot strategy conspiracy account. He is a very good sort of the holotype specimen of what these conspiracy grift accounts are like. You know, posts 5 times a day, always selling you something. Doesn't matter what he's saying, just kind of throwing shit at the wall. So, you know, and by doing that, cast a very broad net to try and get as many gullible people as possible to, you know, get terrified and want to buy supplements. So it's very predatory, you know, in my opinion.
Yes, that's an astute, that's a good way to put it.
We're going to start off with a little video that is featuring one of our favorite people on the planet, Kent Hovind. And so we're going to have a little bit of that kind of stuff. And then we are going to see probably one of the most infuriating videos you've ever seen in your life. So there's a reason I brought you on for this one, Dave, and that's because I think you have the profound capability to say exactly what I'm thinking. So we're going to do that today.
Sure. I hope. Yeah, I won't disappoint, I hope.
I don't think you will. All right, let's see.
I would love to hear some people try and debunk what this man is you're about to hear him say. He also, many people believe, has been subject of political targeting for his beliefs and his speeches and the information he's putting out there. So listen to this.
But evolution is a slippery word. When someone says, do you believe in evolution? I say, what do you mean? It's got 6 different meanings. First would have to be...
So, couple things right off the bat here. Ken Hovind, he's the subject of political targeting, you know?
Political targeting, yeah. He's being targeted for being a felon, a tax evader, harboring a child molester. He's a serial wife beater. But sure, he's being targeted. Yeah.
It's mainstream academia, dude. It's, you know, none of that has anything to do with it. All you got to say is, you know, he's been arrested. And really, the real reason is because, you know, he's fighting against the dogma
He's a
of
man
science.
of God. They hate that he's a man of God.
He would never evade his taxes.
Yeah.
You know, and then we also get a little bit of a nice piece here that kind of reminds me of, here, let me just play this little clip again.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what he's going to say. I've
6
heard
different
this.
meanings. First would have...
Yeah, you've seen this bullshit before, but it kind of reminds me of, who the fuck is Jordan Peterson? You ever seen those clips of him where he does that thing where, like, someone just asked him a very basic question and he's like, well, you have to ask, what do you mean by what? And what do you mean by evolution? And he, like, breaks down
What
every
is the
single
meaning
word.
of... Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you give a man a rat...
Rats are all like this. The rat goes like this. So the rat's like this. The normal rat is like this. That's the normal rat.
Yeah. Yeah. The Bill Clinton defense.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah, totally.
exactly. So anyway, you know the script here. We're going to just go right through this clip kind of to the end, and we'll talk about it.
Evolution, the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Where did time, space, and matter come from? Then you have to get chemical evolution. There's 92 naturally occurring elements. How do you get gold, silver, and platinum out of hydrogen gas? Then you got to have stars evolving, stellar evolution. Nobody has ever seen a star form. Then you have to have organic evolution. Life has to somehow come from non-living matter. Then you have to have macroevolution, where an animal changes from one kind into another. Nobody's ever seen these first 5. The Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago. And then this first life form that came out of the soup had to somehow transform itself into everything else today. So that little amoeba, single-celled creature, turned into a whale and a giraffe and a pine tree and everything. Look, you guys can believe what you want, but don't call that science. Evolution's not part of science. It's a religious belief.
Classic. Just...
Don't refer to science as science.
It's a religious belief.
Yeah. It's a religious belief, yeah. So this definition of evolution that he's using basically spans cosmology, astrophysics, planetary science, geology, chemistry, biochemistry, molecular biology, and evolutionary biology. He's basically taking all of those things, lumping them into one category, and saying nuh-uh to all of it. Right. At least 90% of what he listed is trivially known. Like, I mean, okay, let's start from the very beginning. So cosmic evolution. We don't know exactly how the universe began. Let's go ahead and give Kent that. That's probably the only one he's going to get. But other than that, after around, 10 to the negative 36 seconds or so after the initial singularity, the field of astrophysics has an astoundingly excellent idea of how the universe kind of evolved, and we have plenty of information to back that up empirically: cosmic microwave background radiation, recession velocities of galaxies, and so forth. So if you want to call astrophysics all wrong without offering any explanation, you go ahead and do that. The next one is hilarious to me: the chemical evolution. Where did all the elements come from? They came from inside stars, right? The nuclei fly around and fuse together, and then that gets all the way up to iron, and then heavier than iron gets fused in supernovae and other high-energy cosmic events. This is so unbelievably trivial. Like, we can use spectroscopy. We look at stars. We know what elements are in there. Like, we know what's going on. It's very trivial observational astronomy. Then stellar evolution. Nobody's ever seen a star born. We can see protostars all over the galaxy. You look out, you see protostars. We see stars in all the different stages of stellar evolution, perfectly aligning with what we understand about solar physics and everything like that. The next one after that is abiogenesis. So, right, that's the most technically difficult one to tackle, and I'm not going to even attempt to here. But you know, suffice it to say that Kent has absolutely zero capacity to understand origin of life research that he doesn't even know is happening. So I will refer everyone to my James Tour saga if you want to hear me get into the weeds on all those papers. And then going from there to all the extant life on Earth. It's just an argument from incredulity, right? You can talk about how, first of all, he calls it an amoeba. It wasn't an amoeba, right? the simplest unicellular life was not an amoeba. Like, we've observed endosymbiosis events, thus lending credibility of going from prokaryotic to eukaryotic. We've observed the emergence of multicellularity in the lab. An algal species became multicellular under observation, so that's fine. And then just from there, he has absolutely zero understanding of genetics, embryonic development, anything like that. So he's just saying, I don't understand how new forms, therefore cannot get new forms. So it's just one gigantic argument from ignorance from top to bottom.
It's very interesting to watch people like this operate, because a strategy that I see them use a lot is they will take one unknown that is an admitted unknown within the field of science and then use it to disregard every single other discovery that has ever been made that is well backed up. Even in this argument here, we saw the, if people don't know where life came from, if life evolved from non-living matter, then nothing could ever have happened. I'm like, well, life is here, and we know damn well how it works right now. So yeah, we may not know that, but does that mean that every single thing under the field of biology just doesn't work and is false? No, absolutely not. It means that there's still one outstanding.
Right. Even if we were to grant his god, like, the little bewitched nose wiggle and poof, the first unicellular organism appeared out of thin air, that would in no way undermine the entirety of evolutionary biology from that point forward, which is very well substantiated.
Why do you think it is that so many people who are, anti-science or pseudoscientists will use arguments like this?
It's just an easy way out, right? They have no ability. Yeah. See, science deniers cannot fight science. They cannot point to scientific data or research or any legitimate scientific information and try to discredit it because they don't know it. They've never learned it, right? They're just looking at what they imagine to be science and saying, nuh-uh. So they have to find rhetorical devices. They have to find logical fallacies to dismiss all of science that seem credible to other science illiterate people. So that's all it is. It's just a trick. It's a
genius trick, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving.
Something else to keep in mind is that explosions are generally chaotic and destructive. But the explosion that we apparently all came from, the Big Bang, was anything but destructive. It actually created everything. That's their theory anyway. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below.
Hit us with it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, Dave.
Yeah, this is a very classic young Earth creationist stupidity. The Big Bang was not an explosion, right? Hoyle labeled it the Big Bang to try to mock it, and then it just kind of stuck, right? It wasn't a bang.
Really? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a little fun. There's always
cool
fun little tidbits about the etymology here with all these sciences. Hoyle was not a fan of Big Bang cosmology, and he was trying to make fun of it. An initial singularity with a certain finite amount of energy, from which matter congealed, and so there's an evolution to the universe. It's certainly not an explosion like a combustion reaction or something.
Yeah.
And it certainly didn't produce everything we know in the sense of I have a cosmology tutorial where I try to help people understand that it's not a kablooey graphic with planets and comets tumbling out of it, right? It's a very, very slow process of the very first fundamental particles arising from energy due to energy matter equivalence, and then from there atoms forming, and so first of all, it was a couple 100,000 years for it to be cool enough for even atoms to exist, but then hundreds of thousands of years for hydrogen and a little bit of helium that formed during Big Bang nucleosynthesis to congeal into stars, and then only once there were stars did we get any elements beyond hydrogen and helium. And then only once the first generation of stars went supernova did those elements spew out into the cosmos and congeal to form the second generation of stars, what we call Pop-2 stars, to then have planetary systems. So the first generation of stars didn't have planets, right? The second generation of stars had planets because now all these other elements exist. So now you have planets, and now you have the potentiality for more complex structures and then eventually life. So we're talking about millions and millions and millions of years into the evolution, nearly a billion even, until you have the possibility for planets or anything like what this person thinks he's talking about, or what he thinks that astrophysicists suggest was produced by the initial singularity. None of it was produced. It was purely energy from which congealed the first fundamental particles, which then formed more complex systems over unbelievable cosmological time spans.
Yeah, I see this this argument used quite a bit. I did a video on ruining my Instagram Reels algorithm with a bunch of conspiracies, and one of the videos that came up on that was like how evolutionists think the world was formed, and it's literally exactly what you're explaining, where it's like explosion graphic, and then like Earth exists, and then like there's monkeys, and then people, and then cities, and it's like whoa, 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 whoa.
Wow.
Oh. That's it. I'm Christian now. You are oversimplifying literally every single thing about all of these processes that are all very intricate and they're connected, but they're all separate. They're all separate fields of study. And by just painting it as like, a 4-panel comic, essentially, you're making it seem trivial because you're just saying like you said, incredulity, where it's like, see, this doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, yeah, because the way you said it intentionally doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's worse than an oversimplification. It's wrong. All of the things are wrong, and then also omitting, right? Like it's what Kent Hovind does, right? He goes, how did we get from an amoeba to a human? And there's this like line on a chart for 5th graders, and he's like, how did an amoeba give birth to a human? I was like, well, it didn't. There are about 17 bazillion intermediary species that you're ignoring, none of which you even knew exist because you know of 0 things about paleontology. So it's a misrepresentation combined with the most massive straw man imaginable. That's what they do. Yeah.
All right, let's see, where were we at with this? So this is the one that I really thought, when I saw this video, this is the moment that I was like, holy shit, I need Dave on this video stat. And I will say, I gotta just give you this is like a content warning almost. I have seen a lot of really stupid videos in my time. People say just the dumbest things imaginable. I have seen you cover people talking about some of the dumbest things imaginable. This video, if it is not like rage bait that's just made to get a rise out of people, is one of probably the most atrocious thing I've ever seen. So just with that said, let's have a look.
People believe one of two things. Either we came from an explosion called the Big Bang and one cell came out of that and then it evolved over bajillions of years and now we're human, or that we were created in a relatively short amount of time. Here are some questions I wish I could go back and ask my teachers when they told us the evolution story. This is shocking. Plants need animals to pollinate them to survive. Which came first, the plant or the animal? But animals also need plants to survive. Which evolved first, the animal or the plant? Which evolved first, the male or the female? If the male evolved first, without the ability to reproduce by himself, they would have perished.
I'm gonna just pause there for processing of your brain. Yeah.
Where to even start? Okay, so
let's start with the plants. Plants and animals.
Yeah, so the plants and the animals. So the plant and kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia diverged when life was still unicellular, right? So trying to point out a symbiosis that exists today, and by the way, evolved within the past. When did flowering plants evolve? Not that long, like 100 million years ago or something.
Yeah.
He's trying to generalize that to all plants, which there are so many plants that are not flowering plants, and all plants were not flowering plants prior to the very recent evolution of flowering plants. But the point is that these two kingdoms diverged I hesitate to say exactly when. Let's say, for argument's sake, about 1 billion years ago, right? A multicellular animal life exploded around 600 million years ago. So let's just say about 1 billion years ago. When you have complex systems with many, many different organisms, right, they're all evolving in tandem. When you have these specific evolutionary inputs, such as the presence of another species, a dependency can evolve on that constant influence on the environment, right? There is such and such species present. And so an evolutionary dependence can arise where I'm going to depend on the behavior of this species, and that can go two ways, right? So a symbiosis can obviously evolve when you have these populations of organisms in the same environment. It's really not that hard to wrap your head around, right? So it's not that all plants ever needed animals. This particular plant relies on the behavior of this particular insect species, and that's an evolutionary adaptation, right? There's fitness there, where it's a strategy, right? These plants and these insects found this symbiotic behavior, and it's just a way that nature can do things. You know, it's not that hard to understand, really.
You'd think. Well, I mean, very well said. That's exactly it, where it's, you know, these two things evolved parallel with one another, these two, you know, families. And throughout time, there has been symbiotic, you know, relationships that have formed and dissolved. And the ones we see today are ones that have taken countless multitudes of generations to form and are also very recent. Like, this isn't something that just started, you know, like, you could say it started, you know, 600 million years ago and stuff like that. But like, yeah, it's too slow for our eyes to see, but like, it's happening right in front of us every day. So now we get into the really just the worst part of this. I'm going to just let this part go one more time because, my God, I think he even says a little more.
Animal or the plant? Which evolved first, the male or the female? If the male evolved first, without the ability to reproduce by himself, they would have perished. If the female evolved first, same thing. Why would the male evolve to have all this reproductive organ function before females had evolved? Did they evolve at the same time, but at first they were infertile, but then they evolved to be able to reproduce?
Happy Pride Month. Why were all these dudes out here all fertile and stuff with no ladies?
No ladies around to catch their gunk, man. Okay, so I don't want to look. It's a reasonable question, right? It's a reasonable question. Okay, I don't want to make fun of it. He said way dumber shit than this, but it's like very clearly. And by the way, you could just Google this and learn this in 30 seconds. But of course, he's never going to do that. It's very obvious that life was first monoecious, right? That developed these gametes for the purpose of fertilization and reproduction, and that every organism was hermaphroditic and had both of the gametes, and then life subsequently evolved to be dioecious, where a particular gamete was assigned to an organism, one and not the other, and then you had the advent of sexual reproduction, and the advantage there was for enhanced genetic diversity. Right, when you have monocultures, right? If you because plants are doing this, right? Plants fertilize themselves all the time, and so with sexual reproduction, you get the benefit of enhanced genetic diversity. You have different lineages that converge, and you have two different sets of DNA there's more genetic variety to choose from when producing offspring. That's the short answer. Again, not too hard to understand, I suppose.
Yeah, an interesting one. I don't think I've ever heard someone talk about, you know, men and women as if they were like two different like species that had to evolve. Yeah, a little bit bizarre. So that's what I mean when I say, like, you know, it's not a terrible question, but the way he's asking it is in such a, like, is phrased in such a way that makes me wonder, yeah, where I'm like, is this a genuine question that's being asked? Or is this just like a, you know, checkmate atheists, and here's a dumbass thing that you have to spend 3 hours trying to explain to me that I could have Googled, you know?
Yeah, it can't possibly be a genuine question. This level of willful ignorance is inexcusable in the information age, right? Go back 300 years, I'll give it to you, right? Even 150 years, okay, maybe your family isn't wealthy enough to have an Encyclopedia Britannica in your house or whatever. But you have the internet. You can Google it. How did we get Memphis? You'll get the answer in 30 seconds, man. You will. So this is not a real question. Grow up.
Well said. All right, let's see where else he goes with this.
Same with every animal. Horses, bears, fish, which one evolved first? Do you realize that if the male evolved 300 miles away from the female, you'd have a big problem if they never crossed paths. Some believe there's more evidence that we were created.
Yeah, dude. What do you have to say to that? Checkmate, atheists. If the male
I know.
evolved, poof, there's a man over here, but he's too far from the woman, the human race dies off.
That's right. Yep.
It's just like, that's
Adam
what I
and
mean
Eve
of like, these
foiled.
can't be actual questions. Like, this
No,
cannot be a genuine, like, hey, so no, like seriously, what if like, if the man evolved over here, like, can you walk me through this? Because then it's like, okay, like, yeah, I can be like, that's stupid. But it's like, if you've never been taught this, sure. But it's like,
Yeah, you learned this in middle school. But I would never villainize someone for having a dumb thought like that. It's okay to have a dumb thought. We all have them from time to time. But it's absolutely inexcusable to not act on that and try to learn something and then broadcast that to the entire internet and try to infect society with your stupidity. That's not okay.
And that we evolved. But the problem comes from morality and accountability. If we were created, then there is a God, then you do have to answer for things you do right, things you do wrong. And this is where it comes down. People want to say, we weren't created, there is no God, I can live my life how I want, there'll be no repercussions. We'll see about that.
Yeah, I'm doing one on Tucker Carlson right now because he had a conversation with Brett Weinstein and he uses this exact,
it's glorious.
If
It's
there's
so
no
good.
God, I can kill anyone. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, so you're basically just admitting that you're basically an asshole. You're immoral, and the only reason you're not murdering everybody is because you fear retribution from a wrathful God that will dunk you in lava forever. I don't believe in God, and I don't need that, right? I can just go, oh great, I don't want anyone to murder me, so maybe let's all just not murder each other. That seems to make sense, right? Like what these asshats don't understand is that it's not even like specifically about being such an incredibly moral person, right? There's a selfish argument for altruism, right? It really is as simple as that. I don't want to get killed. I don't want anyone stealing from me. I don't want blah, blah, blah. Let's just all not do that. And so let's have laws just in case there's people who that's not good enough for them, right? But the laws are what you have to face here, not this angry God that's supposedly omniscient and omnipotent and made you knowing exactly what you were going to do, but then punishes you for it anyway, right? And in a disproportionate way.
I created you in my image and know the entire course of your life. But if you fail my test, I'll set you on fire forever.
Yeah.
But it's a very similar argument, honestly, to the pieces about where, you know, the origin of life to what the specifics of the Big Bang were, where it's just like, here is this one claim that is so immense that if I just cling to this one thing, I can disregard everything else. It's like all of evolutionary biology, all of science doesn't matter because how do you know not to murder people, you know? And like to the people in the audience who do believe in that, they will believe that and be like, you know what, you're so right. We were imparted these morals where the animals are all killing each other, but it's like, look around. We are the fucking animals. Like, do you not watch the news every day?
Oh, but don't you know those are God's chosen people? They're allowed to murder. God said so.
Crusades
On
and
on, but-
conquistadors. Yeah, it's an endless cycle. Hearing arguments like that really just kind of blows my mind because it also shows a level of elitism, which I find to be kind of ironic because a lot of people in the anti-science world constantly rely on creating this straw man of science as being elitist, where it's like they poo-poo and look down on us. And I can totally see how people feel like that sometimes, and that's a hard thing that we have to contend with as science communicators. But when you do shit like that, where it's like, you know, barbarians would all be murdering each other if it wasn't for my God. So like, that just feels very high and mighty. Anyway, I got one last one to show you. Those are the two major videos, but there was one little piece at the end of this one, which I think you'll get a kick out of. And, you know, I just want to see what you think of it kind of off the fly here. Let's go.
The theory of evolution is protected by the establishment. That should make you wonder. But evolution also suggests that life came from non-living things. Where did it begin? And secondly, evolution in our world today has never been observed.
So that's the big one that I think I love. The evolution has never been observed. We hear that all the time from, you know, creationists. I want to see what your response would be to that claim.
Yeah, it's insane and objectively false. We observe evolution every single day, right? We observe changes in populations with accompanying genetic change, right? Genotypic and phenotypic change in populations every single day. What he means and what Kent Hovind means is why doesn't a pine tree give birth to a whale, or so, like that's what they don't. We don't observe the straw man version of evolution, right? We don't see something giving birth to a completely unrelated organism, a thing that never has happened and never will happen. Earlier in this conversation, I talked about us observing an endosymbiotic event and observing the emergence of multicellularity, and those are enormous changes that we have observed in the lab, let alone evolution of antibiotic resistance in bacterial colonies. Right, that was one of my examples. That's Darwinian evolution. It's it's absolutely undeniable evolution by natural selection. But is the bacteria still a bacteria? Why didn't it morph into a wolf? Huh? Yeah. Right, but the other two things he said too, I mean, the reason they always harp on origin of life is because it's really, really hard to understand. But honestly, that is no longer really there used to be two spots for the god of the gaps to stretch his limbs. That was the origin of the universe and the origin of life. But honestly, origin of life, it's not really there anymore. We don't really know all the specifics, but we have extremely solid understandings of how the important biomolecules came about, polypeptides, polynucleotides, and then by extension polysaccharides, right? We have a very good understanding of how the catalytic biomolecules arose naturalistically. That's not a question mark anymore. And with systems chemistry, we're starting to understand how those systems of molecules can have evolved and complexified over time. We have observed ribozymes evolving by Darwinian means in the lab. We have seen this, right? We understand the concept of autocatalysis. And so we don't have, obviously, the exact immaculate perfect roadmap, and probably never will, but the concepts are very clear. It's just not really as gigantic a mystery by a long shot as it used to be 100 or even 50 years ago. To understand origin of life research, that's why I'm pretty much the only debunker doing it, is because I have a chemistry background.
Yeah, it's complex stuff. I knew nothing about it before watching any of your content, and I'm not a chemistry guy to begin with, but watching it, I'm like, wow, that's pretty fucking insane. So, when I hear stuff like this, it's not, I don't believe it, but I hear it and I'm like, I don't even know really how to compete with that, because I don't know anything about origin of life research. Most of the general public doesn't know about it. It's not really in our standard school curriculum yet. So they really have this really good little Achilles heel that they can nip at, because most people, even if they're science literate, which most people are not equipped to be able to actually push back on this.
It's too niche. I knew very, very little about it, or almost nothing about it, until I started debunking James Tour, and then I started developing personal relationships with these researchers and reading hundreds and hundreds of papers. And now I'm still very far from an expert, but I have a solid working knowledge of even all of the smaller communities and hypotheses within the field, and can explain it to viewers. And so I'm actually planning on doing, hopefully, an origin of life research series outside of a debunking context in the near future, so I can just explain all this stuff. Useful. But then the other thing the guy said is just, he's making this argument, it's protected by the establishment. So basically, any time we know things, it's a conspiracy, right? If we've studied something and learned about it and teach other people what we figured out, that's somehow a conspiracy, right? So 2 + 2 = 4 is protected by the establishment, but it's actually a satanic conspiracy, right? I mean, it's just such toddler mentality. Learn or don't, but stop projecting your own ignorance onto the entire human race. We've figured shit out. Catch up or learn it. It's all here for you, or just trust us. If you don't want to blindly trust science, then learn about it. No one's stopping you. Give it a shot. It's easier than you think.
Well said, Dave. Yeah, it's a crazy one. I think that we're going to be seeing we see quite a bit of stuff like this. And my hope is, in making this video, it can not only expand a little bit of the reach of my audience who may not know about you yet to come see what you do, but also inspire more people to see accounts like this are a dime a dozen, and there's a lot of them out there, and we need a lot more people doing science communication, because regardless of whether or not he's coming from a place of genuine, curiosity, which I have a hard time believing, this is a type of mentality that is genuinely poisoning society.
I agree.
Yeah.
Here are the patterns for identifying science denial, but also science enthusiasts, science students. Here, SciComm is a career path that is available to you if you are not excited by the traditional routes of going into industry or remaining in academia, whatever it is, right? Give this a shot.
Yeah, well, Dave, thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving the time here today. Got any exciting upcoming projects or things you think my viewers would like?
I think your fans would be most interested. I'm continuing to do the pseudoarchaeology debunks. So after Graham and then Dan, Jimmy Corsetti's up next. We're gonna slam him, and then more probably after that, because that cult has just pissed me off so much. It's so toxic. They're more toxic than flat earthers, more toxic than anti-vaxxers, anything like that. And so, yeah, I am now devoted to demolishing all of their heroes. But then other stuff too. I just put one out today on Ashton Forbes. I got one coming up on RFK that has been heavily requested. Ooh. So all kinds of good stuff coming up.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it here today. And, I hope everyone gets a kick out of you. Bravo, bravo. Thank you, Professor Dave and myself. I feel like I always get comments that are like, Milo, I don't know how you have like this level of patience with these people. Why are you giving them so many chances? And then when I watch Dave's videos, there's comments that are like, holy shit, dude, you fucking killed him. Frankly, when I started out on YouTube, I never dreamed I'd find someone that was more punchy than I am, but I guess Dave is the exception that proves the rule. If you haven't seen any of Dave's content yet, you should definitely go check it out. He's got a lot of great debunks on a lot of different topics, including the great big pseudoarchaeology debunk, which I think all of you would very much enjoy, covering some characters that I haven't even dipped my toes into here yet. But for those of you that enjoyed part 2 of this series talking about health conspiracies, you should definitely go check out Professor Dave's video on RFK Jr. If you were pissed off about the shit that I said in my video, you should really go watch his because, oh my god. So anyway, Dave, thank you again for coming on. Real pleasure to have you here, and I hope all of you enjoy going to check out his videos after this one. You know what, guys? My turn for a little product placement. I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm not even gonna say, wow, it's me again, the guy that you were literally just looking at. I know you're thinking, oh, Milo's here to, push some merch or something like that, which is partly true. We got cool hoodies and stickers and stuff. Links to that is in the description. But really, I'm here for something much more important. This is actually pretty crazy, guys. All right, this is a big one. This one's so big, we might need a drum roll for it. Everyone hold your breath. Drum roll, please. Your boy is going on tour. Whoa, please, everybody, hold your applause. I know, this is the greatest day of your life. I've been talking about doing a tour for a long time. I think I even mentioned in the spring that I was trying to put one together. And wouldn't you fucking know it, for the whole summer, me and my team have been cooking, and at long last, we can finally announce the Milo Rossi Northeast Tour. We're gonna be doing all kinds of fun stuff. Please, everyone, remain in your seats. I haven't even told you what we're doing yet. We're gonna be having some talks, not unlike the talking I'm doing right now, where we're gonna be talking about the dangers of pseudoscience, the importance of science communication, and how you can stand up for the fucking truth. The lecture-style talks are gonna be held in universities and event spaces. Along with those talks, we're also gonna be having some Trivia nights. I'm such a goddamn nerd and love trivia so much that I voluntarily put it in my tour, so I have to ask the same goddamn questions for 10 nights. A lot of the trivia nights are gonna be held in bars and breweries, which is gonna be fucking fun. The only thing more fun than drinking with me virtually is drinking with me in person. Okay, I see you foaming at the mouth right now with the burning question. Where and when? That's 2 questions. Okay, well, we're still narrowing down some of the venues, but we do have the dates and cities. Dates will be on screen here, so I don't have to read all these numbers out loud. We're gonna be going to Northampton, Massachusetts, before bravely crossing the border into Connecticut, where there will be stops in Hartford and New Haven. From there, I will jaunt to my former post-college home state of Rhode Island, where I will be speaking at the most Rhode Island place imaginable, the fucking NARRAGANSETT Brewery. I know, I promise, you're only half as excited as I am. I'll then have a very special stop in Fall River, Massachusetts, where I'll be hosting an event at the VANSON Leathers Factory. You may know them as the sponsors of the Dark Roots Tour, as well as the creators of my infamous riding suit. There'll be more information on this event soon, but all I'm saying right now is if you think this jacket is pretty cool, you should definitely try and come to this. After Fall River, we're gonna be shipping up to Boston, my home fucking city, baby. Which brings us into November with our 4 final destinations: Princeton, New Jersey, New Brunswick, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Baltimore, Maryland. Each one of these cities will have at least 1 talk and 1 trivia night, as well as specialty merch and swag and myself. but the big announcement with all of that information will come out at the beginning of September. So if this is something you're interested in, keep your eyes peeled because you won't want to fucking miss it. So to help us plan out a potential future tour, there's a Google form in the description of this video. So if you would like me to come to a city near you, let me know what city that is so we can plan a tour around it in the future. Okay, now you can go check out the merch in the description. We got hoodies, we got stickers, help support the channel so we can keep doing what we do here. Anyway, thanks for humoring me here for a second, guys, but I just had to give the teaser announcement. So make sure to stay tuned, and I'll be seeing some of you in literally like a month and a half. That is fucking insane. I can't believe we're actually doing this. That's crazy. Okay, anyway, back to the video. Not so subtle of me, but that's okay. Here we are at World's End. I cannot understate how exhausted I am by this fucking series. I want nothing more than to go back to making the fun videos that aren't 2 hours long. My team and I have been working since January on a video about Poverty Point, and I think it's safe to say that all of us would much rather be working on that. But as you can see, calling this project a commitment would be a fucking understatement. So when I finished scripting this whole part with the young earth creationism, I was like, am I gonna have to make a 4th fucking video on pseudoarchaeology? And I thought to myself, and I talked with my team, and we thought, absolutely the fuck not. So I started looking through the pseudoarchaeology videos that I'd collected from Shayne, and I noticed something that was actually a huge relief to me. And that is, they're even worse than I thought. And they're not even worth doing their own video on. Which is why I am very excited to present to you the final part of Shayne Vibes Truth Debunked. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle the fuck up, because it's time for the Psuedoarchaeology Speedrun. As I was going through Shayne's pseudoarchaeology videos, I noticed that they had a shockingly low percentage of actual content to him just sort of rambling and selling things. Again, say what you will about Philip Ziba, but his pseudoarchaeology videos were like 3 to 4 minutes long, and he actually said a lot of things in it. Where with Shayne, it's more like each video is about a minute long, and maybe like 15 seconds of it is actually saying something. So what I did is I collected like 25 of my favorite pseudoarchaeology videos from Shayne, and I boiled them down to their essential elements, to their essential oils, if you will. And I took all of those essential oils and made this, the Psuedoarchaeology Speedrun, where we are going to do a lightning round, or I guess more of a lightning round. Is anything really lightning when you're making a 3-part series where each part is 2 hours long? There's no such thing as fucking lightning. There's no such thing as lightning! Oh my god! Did you know that the ancients used to believe that lightning could increase your fertility?
Modern men's sperm counts.
Now honestly, it was a little bit tough for me to trim the fat off these videos, because most of the things that he says in these videos are his little, like, you know, conspiracyisms. You know, things like this.
Ancient mysteries.
That contradicts the official narrative.
And there's a bit of a cover-up going on around it as well. Them involved in the cover-up of many things.
What do we really know about the history of this Earth other than what we're officially programmedly told?
And I'm sure you'll agree with me when I say that these are just my favorite part of these videos. So I also took all of this fat and boiled it down into its own essential oil for a glorious grand finale firework display of craziness at the very end of this video. But before we get to that, I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to flex my pseudoarchaeology debunking muscles with all of these points that I've debunked a million times over by speedrunning through like 25 fucking videos. We're kicking this shit off with giants. Editing team, you know what to do.
So we have these giant doors.
The doors were giant because they look cool and they were on buildings that were also giant. They're also only a few hundred years old, so if human giants were involved with them in any way, we would have a lot more evidence than just big fucking doors.
Newspaper clippings from the 1800s. Prehistoric giant skeleton found. Arizona, prehistoric giant with very long arms found. Maryland, gigantic skeleton of a giant found.
There are 2 reasons why discoveries of giant bones cropped up in newspapers in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Firstly, everyone was looting the tens of thousands of Native American grave sites all across the country. Since these idiots weren't archaeologists, they would find these bones and be like, whoa, that looks huge, and it would turn into a big fish story to flex on your neighbors. The second reason, and I cannot believe I have to explain this to Shayne of all fucking people, is that the job of a newspaper is not telling the truth, it's selling newspapers. The newspaper market was really competitive at this time, so if newspapers ran articles like this, they'd sell more papers and make more money. It's crazy to me that someone who doesn't shut up about the corrupt mainstream media puts his 100% faith in an issue of the Santa Fe New Mexican from 1910.
Smithsonian Institute comes along, scoops them up, says, we gotta check to make sure they're authentic. and then they lose it.
The claim that the Smithsonian Institute destroyed giant skeletons comes from an article from a fake news website called the World News Daily Report. Even though this is essentially like quoting The Onion, conspiracy theorists regurgitate it constantly because they are sheep who will blindly trust anything that supports their pre-existing anti-intellectual worldview. Any giant remains that were given to the Smithsonian were not the remains of giants, they were the remains of Native Americans. And so the Smithsonian, being a reputable institution, wasn't going to be like, here, random farmer in Iowa, why don't you just have these human remains back? The fact that anyone thinks this is a mystery is the most moronic thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. Next video. They're terrace farms. I've been there. Fuck off.
After the giant bones discovered all over the place.
That never happened.
Historical evidence, the Smithsonian, them involved.
You're citing an article from a satirical news website.
We also have the pyramids in Bosnia that they say is pseudo-archaeological.
It is. The Bosnian pyramid has been repeatedly excavated and proven to just be a natural feature. The man who discovered it is not an archaeologist, but a businessman. And so he turned it into a tourist trap to pick the pockets of gullible anti-establishment morons.
But it's a pyramid complex and it's pyramid shaped. Same thing with...
The complex is a series of hills, and they look the same because they all experience the same geologic processes. And noting that something is shaped like is not proof of anything. For example, your head is shaped like a brain could be inside of it.
The pyramids in China, which they say are just simply mounds.
These are also mountains. You can literally see the layers of stratigraphy in the images you are showing.
This is right out of George Orwell. If they bury and hide your past, you don't really know true history, then you don't really know what's going on in the present, and then they can dictate to you what happens in the future.
The irony of you invoking George Orwell, the author of one of the most famous books on totalitarianism and disinformation, to justify yourself poisoning the minds of the enlightened world is so beautifully ironic, I don't even think I have to offer a commentary on it. Next video.
It's bigger. You are not me.
We have Abe Lincoln talking about giants.
Oh my god. This is not a speech, it is some notes that Lincoln made after visiting Niagara Falls. The notes contain this quote, and so conspiracy theorists don't shut the fuck up about it. But Shayne, did you even bother to read it? Do you want your audience to read it and be able to interpret what it says? Or do you just expect them, like you, to believe this blindly because it supports their pre-existing anti-establishment worldview? Because for Christ's sake, if you even bothered to read more than one fucking sentence from this, you'd see the context is that Abe Lincoln was talking about fucking mammoths. I know this is a speed run, but I'm going to take a second here to read this part out loud to show how fucking disingenuous this is. I'll paraphrase a little bit, but the whole thing's on screen if you need it. When Columbus first sought this continent, when Adam first came from the hands of his maker, Niagara was roaring here. The eyes of that species of extinct giants whose bones fill the mounds of America have gazed on Niagara as ours do now. Contemporary with the whole race of men, and older than the first man, Niagara is strong, and fresh today as 10,000 years ago. The mammoth and mastodon, now so long dead that fragments of their monstrous bones alone testify that they ever lived, have gazed on Niagara. He was admiring the beauty of Niagara Falls and wondering about how giant beasts once walked alongside normally sized people and saw the same things that he was seeing. My man was in awe of nature. At this time, mammoths and mastodons were actually a fairly new discovery, so what Lincoln is actually doing here is like citing pretty much cutting edge science for the day. So how fucking dare you twist the good word of Honest Abe to support your anti-establishment bullshit? You could have literally read 2 sentences to check this, Shayne. Holy fuck! Your lack of due diligence is an insult to the intelligence of not only your viewers, but the entire human race.
We have Marco Polo talking about dragons.
Good for him. I've also talked about dragons. Next video.
Okay, so this is out of a newspaper in 1896. Discovery of ancient giant's footprint in British Columbia raises an interesting question.
The job of a newspaper is, say it with me now, selling newspapers. I cannot believe I have to explain this to you of all people.
This was during the height of many well-known giant scenarios.
Have you ever wondered why the height of giant discoveries coincided with massive tracts of the country being plowed into farmland? Or why so many giant discoveries are from the center of the United States in like the Mississippi drainage? Because the native people of those regions buried their dead in mounds, and those mounds were being plowed down to turn into farms. So these idiots collected the bones and made up big fish stories so they could sell them for lots of money and get their names in fucking newspapers. You also ever wonder why that height of giant discoveries came to an end? Because it became became illegal to pilfer Native American graves and trade their bones like fucking Pokemon cards. Shane, did you know that Native American bones were first classed as artifacts and specific legislation had to be passed to class them as human remains? You get that? That Native American bones were not classed as human remains? As someone that really seems to have their third eye open about the injustices in this world, Shane, I trust this is something that you really care about. Or am I just having a woke crash out and the real fucking problem is the goddamn trans kid playing fucking tennis?
Smithsonian comes around, of course, and collects all that.
Why the fuck would the Smithsonian Institution return human remains to some random guy that pilfered a grave? The reason none of these giant discoveries went anywhere, Shane, is because they didn't fucking exist. If you were trying to tell me that every single giant discovery was real and that somehow the Smithsonian managed to hunt down and destroy every single one, and that's why you can't point at a single example of any of them today, then you have lost touch with reality. Next one. Oh, you have got to be fucking kidding me. Conspiracy theorists won't trust a vaccine, but they'll believe a video like this. You don't need me to say anything here. Next video.
They're calling it an ancient volcano.
That would be because it is.
And 3 million years old. Both of those things I don't quite subscribe to.
Of course you don't, because that would require actually challenging your worldview. You just choosing not to believe something doesn't make it not true.
When is the last time you've seen magma form perfect hexagonal structures like this?
All over the place, Shane. The fuck? It's called columnar jointing. It happens when magma cools under specific conditions. You can find instances of it all over the world. Believe it or not, there's actually very intelligent people out there who have studied this phenomenon and can explain to you perfectly how it happens.
Geologer.
Now, I'm not going to take the time to explain this to you because if when was the last time you've seen magma do something like this was a legitimate question and not just an argument from incredulity, then you could have Googled this yourself and learned all about it in like 3 fucking minutes.
This is the inside of plants. The inside of a tree.
Oh my god. A thing looking like another thing is not evidence of jack or shit. They also don't even really look all that similar. But most importantly, Shane, if columnar jointing were the remains of giant trees, it would be made of petrified wood. Every single example of this in the world is made out of igneous volcanic rock. The giant tree stump thing is profoundly stupid from just a logical point of view, but the process that you were explaining is not even geologically possible.
In Antarctica too, so they really were all around the world.
Yes, Shane, there are volcanoes all around the world. Next video.
Hey, hold on a second. You see it's nothing but wood.
This is a sedimentary rock. Yeah, it kind of looks like petrified wood, but why the fuck would a giant tree stump have 2 perfectly clean planes of cleavage like 6 inches apart?
So to be clear, this video doesn't necessarily prove anything.
Yeah, Shane, that's actually a fucking understatement.
And by the way, I actually have a coffee table petrified wood tree stump.
Honestly, dude, that's actually a pretty fucking cool coffee table.
My question is, how did a wooden tree turn to stone?
Through a process called mineralization. A tree gets covered in mud or ash and minerals slowly replace the natural material of the wood. If you were genuinely curious to learn about this process, you could type the question you just asked into Google instead of just directing it into an echo chamber filled with science deniers.
But it was petrified. Definitely wasn't at one point growing in silica-based, right?
Oh, what? Did he just imply that the tree was a silica-based life form? Oh my god, that is... I don't even have anything to say to that. That is, wow. Okay, next topic, Grand Canyon.
Did you know there's this pretty significant part of the Grand Canyon that is considered a no-go zone, completely off limits to the public?
Yes, I did know that. It is the Grand Canyon. It is both very dangerous and completely full of immensely stupid tourists. Between 10 and 15 people die at the Grand Canyon every single year. The fact that parts of it are closed to the public should not be a surprise to anybody.
Now, the official story is that it has to do with indigenous land burials, uranium something, and of course, public safety.
Oh my god. Indigenous land burials. Hey, Native Americans, I know that the civilization that we're a part of has been, you know, responsible for the dispossession and massacre of your people and the rape of your native land. But you know that, like, tiny sliver of sacred land that we gave you down at the very bottom of the Grand Canyon? I hate to ask, but could you, like, open that up to busloads of mouth-breathing tourists in flip-flops? Oh, why do you have to do that? Well, you see, Shane here, he thinks that you might be hiding something from him. What was the second thing he said?
Uranium something.
Uranium something. Uranium mining, Shane. There were uranium mines in the Grand Canyon, and so they closed the uranium mines because they don't want people going in the fucking uranium mines. And of course, public safety. Shayne, I want you to do something for me. I want you to open a new tab and I want you to type in Grand Canyon Death Map. You'll find this really nice interactive ArcGIS map that someone made that shows every single death in the Grand Canyon. I want you to spend like a good 15-20 minutes reading through some of the stories of the 770 deaths in the Grand Canyon, and then try and come back here with that smug-ass tone about public safety.
No, I don't know that this is a genuine image of the Grand Canyon.
Wow, your research process must be exhausting. Fucking hats off.
There's reports that are completely unconfirmed of ancient Egyptian artifacts being found there.
Unconfirmed doesn't even begin to cover it. There have been no Egyptian artifacts discovered in the Grand Canyon. This fucking claim also dates back to rag tabloid newspapers that wanted to make more money. Shayne, you are speaking into an echo chamber of anti-establishment science deniers. Do you really think that saying unconfirmed reports absolves you of responsibility for poisoning their minds with your fucking lies? Oh my god, next video. Looks like is not evidence of why am I even explaining this one to you? Next fucking video, let's talk about pyramids.
All over the world, amazing things we cannot do today.
We could absolutely build these today, soft hands. The reason similar structures are all over the world is not because they had contact with each other, it's because before the invention of fucking steel, the easiest way to make a building that's really tall is to make a base that's really wide and a top that's a lot smaller. It is architectural convergent evolution. Oh wait, you don't believe in that either, so what the fuck am I even talking about?
There even may be one of these, well officially there isn't, on in Antarctica, of course, officially there isn't, but there is that one mountain that really looks like one.
You said it yourself. Do I need to even add anything here?
But I got in trouble actually for talking about pyramids on here the other day when I mentioned in Bosnia that there could be a complex of them.
Wow, it must be hard to be so oppressed. It is not a pyramid, it is a mountain that a businessman opened a tourist trap on in order to trick anti-establishment morons into giving him money.
And they said, this is false information, it's pseudo-archaeology.
Yes, that's because it is. Next video.
Each of these sites has 3 pyramids laid out to represent Orion's belt.
There is no hard archaeological evidence to suggest that any of these 3 sites are intentionally laid out to represent Orion's belt. Yeah, it kind of looks like it, but as we've talked about, looks like is not evidence of fucking anything.
And when you connect them, you get Orion's belt all over again?
The Great Pyramids in Egypt were built 4,500 years ago. The Pyramids of Xi'an were built 2,200 years ago. And the Pyramids at Teotihuacan were built 1,900 years ago. At best, these pyramids were each built hundreds of years apart, and at worst, they weren't even built in the same fucking millennium. What you've done here is taken 3 sites that each have 3 buildings that bear superficial similarities to each other, that were all built for completely different reasons, by 3 completely different civilizations, between hundreds and thousands of years apart, drawn a fucking line between them and said, hey, it kind of looks like Orion's belt. Fucking groundbreaking research there, Galileo.
I'll never forget the kid who put together constellations on a map, and then overlaid it with known pyramid sites in South America, and discovered, or rediscovered, an ancient pyramid site somewhere in South America that aligned with a constellation.
That never happened. The story that Shayne is very poorly quoting here is from 2016. This 15-year-old kid came up with a theory that the locations of Mayan cities corresponded to the constellations, and he used this hypothesis to predict the location of a new archaeological site, believing that 2 known sites near it corresponded to a 3-star constellation, and that the city corresponding to the 3rd star just hadn't been discovered yet. The way that Shayne phrased this implies that it worked, and that they found an archaeological site there, but that is a lie. An archaeological dig done at this site yielded no significant findings, and the structure that this kid had identified on the satellite map turned out to just be an abandoned cornfield. Now, I'm not trying to poo-poo this story. I think it's really fun and some really cool, clever, outside-of-the-box thinking for a 15-year-old. Like, genuinely, that kid's fucking going places. But Shayne, of course, is not sharing this story to inspire young viewers to get into the field of archaeology. He's sharing it to reinforce the biases of his anti-establishment audience. Next video.
Waves I've been breathing on my life for a long time. I had a vision from the
The ancient Egyptians had nowhere near enough knowledge of the Earth's surface to be able to calculate something like this, and if the center of Earth's landmass had been somewhere else, would they have moved to build the pyramids there? No, it's a fucking coincidence. I also have no idea what these fucking lines are supposed to mean. The reason they didn't type this number into Google, as is the format for the rest of this video, is because this is a lie. The base of Khafre's pyramid is 411 cubits, Khufu's is 440 cubits, and Menkar's is 200 cubits. You brilliantly established moments ago by measuring something in cubits that the ancient Egyptians did not use the metric system. There is no way in hell the ancient Egyptians knew what the speed of light was, the two numbers don't even line up all that well, and they didn't use our modern lat-long coordinate system where 0 is based in fucking London. Ooh, I'm not even gonna unpack that one. I just realized Shayne doesn't even appear in this video until the very end, and it's just to promote his Rumble, so I have nothing to say about this. Next. A montage of OSHA violations does not make the construction of the pyramids a mystery. We have extensive evidence that they built the pyramids with pulleys and ramps. I'd play more of this video, but it's just a montage that goes on like this, so next.
This strange-shaped large hill in Bosnia, it wasn't until the 90s that an excavation crew actually went and said, let's figure out if this damn thing's a pyramid or not.
And they found that it wasn't.
And when they started excavating, they found huge limestone blocks.
Because this is a mountain made of limestone. The limestone has a natural cleavage that it breaks along, and then the edges get weathered. The site has been studied by both archaeologists and geologists. It is a mountain, not a pyramid.
But this pyramid isn't the same shape as the Egyptian pyramid.
Because the ones in Egypt are pyramids, and this one is a mountain.
Look, so they used a form of sonography to basically beam frequencies into the earth to paint back a picture of what it looks like. And it's stepped like this.
Yes, because it is a mountain made of layers of limestone. This image that you're showing also isn't what they found. Sonography might get you a lot of points in Scrabble, but it won't make this a real image. This is a mock-up made by the businessman who opened this tourist trap to make gullible, anti-establishment people go, whoa, and give him free advertising on fucking Instagram Reels.
The tallest of these network of pyramids, by the way, the Bosnian pyramid is not just one, there's actually 3. The thing is with these Bosnian pyramids, though, is that there's actually 3 of them. There's the Pyramid of the Sun, which is the tallest, and then there's the Moon Pyramid and the Earth Pyramid.
It is part of a mountain range.
The Egyptian pyramids are carbon dated at 4,500 years old. The Bosnian pyramids carbon dated to be at least 30,000 years old.
I think it would be an insult to all of your intelligence to explain why that is fucking insane, and so we're gonna just move right on to the next one.
So the Eye of Horus, which is carved into stone in ancient Egypt, is said by Wikipedia to mean things to do with well-being and health and whatnot. It looks to be that it is a symbol symbolizing a cross-section of the brain.
No, it symbolizes the Eye of Horus.
And the eye being the thalamus gland, and the pituitary gland and the pineal gland being right next to it. So ancient Egyptians knew about the pineal gland.
The ancient Egyptians thought that the heart was the source of consciousness, which is why they preserved it in canopic jars during the mummification process. During this mummification process, the ancient Egyptians would also smash a hook through your nose, scramble your brains, pull them out, and throw them away. So even if they did know what the pineal gland was, they didn't really seem to give that much of a fuck. Okay, next, Tartaria.
Buildings like this, buried under several meters of mud.
Shayne, that's a sewer.
They say that during the construction of the Les Halles in Paris, the structure wrapped around the metal scaffolding on the right is the Fountain of the Innocents. Look how high above the ground it is. 5 stories deep.
Holy Christ. Shayne, those aren't even ruins. It's a retaining wall to keep the street from collapsing. Here's another photo of it. Do you think they would just dig 5 stories down and not reinforce the buildings next to the giant fucking pit? I'm gonna fucking say it again, Shayne. Fucking get out there, goddammit.
Historians are calling it a cultural layer.
No, they aren't. They're calling it a retaining wall. But this guy is saying that this is what historians are saying, and you blindly believe him because it supports your pre-existing anti-establishment biases.
This was dug up in Germany.
Okay, I searched for the source of this image for like 2 fucking hours. I've only seen it posted from completely unreliable sources and attributed as being a tower found in all sorts of different locations. So I looked at it for a while, and I'm like 98% sure that this is just an AI-generated image. I have a hunch that this is going to just be more and more of a problem for the job I do here, y'all. That these fucking bozos can just make an AI image that's pretty fucking convincing, and I have to waste my time trying to find the source of it when there's no fucking source. In conclusion, no, L plus ratio plus AI image, fuck off.
People suggest there was some sort of flood that buried another civilization that the history books don't mention too much.
Next video, let's talk about Easter Island.
Which to me indicates obviously something stopped them midway.
Yeah, they realized it weighed 170 tons and decided to make a smaller one that would be easy to move. Next video.
Well, I just found out that there's a lost kingdom of Guj in Tibet.
That's pretty cool.
What did they eat?
Barley, yak meat and milk, other stuff.
What did they do?
Buddhism, mostly.
What did they carve into stone?
This. Next video.
Another example of extremely interesting, intricate, and ancient and cool technologies that I don't see us doing this today, man.
Here's a video of someone doing things like this today. L plus ratio plus soft hands plus skill issue. Okay, next video.
भारत के इतिहास में पहली बार कर्नाटक में शिवकाशी नदी में पानी कम होने
It's amazing they're still finding ancient ruins all over the place.
This place is called Sasralinga, and it is a well-known pilgrimage site in India. The carvings are called lingas, and they're meant to represent Shiva. And these ones were created between the 1670s and 1720s. So it's not really that ancient, and it's definitely not a ruin considering it is an active place of worship. This is probably what it was like when Christopher Columbus landed in America. Wow, there's all these mysterious and never-before-seen places just waiting for me to discover. Next video.
Keep in mind, we have been told that we are at the height of science and technology.
Hundreds of thousands of people are listening to me speak through a pane of glass. We are most definitely at the height of science and technology. What, you guys don't need me for this? You fucking kidding me? Next video, come on.
Have you heard of the falling block of Wyoming? It's an interesting anomaly, a natural rock formation. 75-foot tall, nearly perfect cube of natural stone appears to have broken off a nearby cliff.
Hey, you know what? You got it, Shane. You're actually getting pretty good at this. Next video.
I can tell you that there is a way this was built that was not with slaves and whips and chains and all that.
Yeah, they were called artisans and craftspeople.
Something a lot more advanced, but they obviously don't want the word getting out about that, otherwise it would be taught in schools because it is known how they built these.
Yeah, it is. It was artisans and craftspeople working really hard. I just said that. Also, don't blame school for not teaching you this. You know that we're genuinely listening to the fucking swan song of civilized society when people are like, you know my fucking high school English teacher who got paid $40,000 a year and had to buy her own pencils? They're the enemy! School had a lot more pressing things to teach you than the mechanics of building this temple, Shane. But thankfully for you, this is why schools have libraries. So that if there's things the teachers aren't teaching you that you want to learn about, you can go there on your own time and learn about them yourself. Now, Shane, it seems that you may not have utilized that resource a whole hell of a lot while you're in school, but don't fret. There are libraries all over for big kids. You could go there right now and learn whatever you want. I'm not asking that of you. I'm telling you, please, for fuck's sake.
You ever thought about how insane some of this is that we could not do today, we are not doing today, we're incapable of doing today?
Oh my God, Shane, please spend some time in the trades. I want you to go up to like a 6'6", 290-pound union mason with a fucking rock hammer who's fueled by fucking iced coffee and American Spirit blacks and tell him to his face that he would be incapable of doing something like this. I promise you, it'll go really well.
The technology that it took to build these, which was not hammer and chisels and slaves and all that, I can tell you that that technology is fully known and fully present.
Yes, Shane, it's called having a work ethic, becoming a master of your craft, and working together as a community towards a common goal. No lasers, no harmonic frequencies, just talented fucking people. The fact that you don't get this speaks volumes. And boom, speedrun is done. Holy shit. This is not much of a speedrun. Nothing's ever a speedrun with me. Who the fuck am I kidding? Okay, I need to catch my breath, take a fucking breather, and figure out how to tie this all together. So while I do that, please enjoy this final montage of Shane Vibes Truth Conspiracyisms.
If this is true, this would change the entire official story of how history unfolded. Might see where I'm going with this.
I can't imagine believing the complete official narrative, although I am hesitant to accept generally the official explanation. The official story said that there are no pyramids there, so I'm not going to talk about that. The reason we don't know about them is because they're not really preferred to be discussed on platforms like this. Now, if they can fib to us about the news and what happened yesterday, imagine how bad history is. They want to sell fake history books. I'm not buying it. The records are completely kept. They know exactly how they did it. So with that being said, how much of our history do we really know? And what's true and what's false? I'll see you in Iran. Come on. Total free speech over there. Don't have to bite your words, bite your tongue. And in fact, many people are talking about certain conflicts in the Middle East maybe actually will feed the world. You can see where things get a little bit sketchy. There's documentaries on this that have been banned. And they want you calcified, dumb, docile, weak, and unwell. Stimulate your pineal gland. That's why I'm always talking about pineal glands and decalcifying it. You may experience enhance spiritual awareness, not to mention mental clarity, even psychic capabilities, but not if your pineal gland's calcified. Decalcify the pineal gland, that could be considered in contravention to the official narrative. Of course, this is all debunked, but it does leave people wondering still.
Oh my god. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna be honest, I really don't have too much more to say on this. I'm fucking exhausted. I think you guys all get the point. I mean, you don't need me to tie this in a nice little bow for you, but there is one person that we still need to talk to. So Shayne, you can come back in now. Hi Shayne, welcome back. I hope that you had a good time finding this in the timeline and zipping over to it. I'm sure that all of this has been a fucking roller coaster for you. You didn't ask for any of this sort of just happened to you. I know that you got a family and you got kids, and I'm sure that this has just been a huge amount of added stress. But I don't do any of this to crucify you or cancel you. I do it because I have genuine concerns. I think it's safe to say that if I'm going to be able to get through to you, I would have already done it in these videos. If none of that got through to you, there is nothing I could say right now that will. And I want to add that if your radio silence here is you genuinely taking some time for reflection, I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, commend you for it. It is never easy to receive criticism, especially harsh criticism, and it's much easier to fly into a defense than it is to sit with that discomfort and think about what you can do to change. And so I want to share with you some final thoughts here that I hope you'll be able to apply as you begin to apply that change to whatever comes next. Shayne, you talk about a lot of problems. The death of our planet, the stratification of wealth, the corrupt elites, the destruction of our history. And as ridiculous as it may sound for me to say this now, Shayne, you're right. The world is being killed, the corporate elites are robbing us blind, and our history is being burned in front of our eyes. But the question that I want you to really think about now is who benefits from what you are saying. Because while many of your concerns are valid, the things you are saying are doing nothing except upholding a system that you claim to despise. I think one of the best examples of this is a topic of yours that we haven't covered at all in these videos yet. And that is, wouldn't you know, climate change. You claim to care deeply about our planet. You say that it's our job to take care of it and that we should be the stewards of it, all of which I completely agree with, and yet you are constantly pushing pseudoscience climate change denial. In fact, the last video currently posted by you about 7 or 8 days ago now is you doing exactly that. It's you talking about a Daily Mail article complaining about Al Gore and climate alarmism. As funny as it is for a guy who doesn't trust the mainstream sources to be citing the Daily Mail, there's something much more important I want to get to about this. Have you ever stopped to think who benefits from climate change denial? Think about it for a second. It's not you. It's not me. It's not any of us. It's the elites. It's the system. It's the corporations. You don't deny climate change because you just have a better understanding of climate systems than tens of thousands of independent scientists. You deny climate change because you've been told to. You claim to be aware of the corporate-controlled media and the ones pulling the strings behind the curtain to push their own agenda, and yet you obediently regurgitate propaganda spread by corporate news networks funded by oil executives, specifically designed to undermine the public's trust in climate research. And it worked, Shayne. It tricked you. They waited for you to open your third eye, and then they fucking poisoned it. You blindly regurgitate all of the climate denial that you see without even bothering to think that it comes from news sources funded by oil dollars, and how they are financially invested in climate change denial. Also, Shayne, something I forgot to say. I want you to take a really good look at how many weather conspiracies you talk about. You're constantly fear-mongering about the fucking hurricanes and the floods and all that shit, which is gross on its own because these are events that people like fucking die in. So using it as propaganda for your own personal gain is something I'd expect out of a fucking politician. But either way, when you look at all of these events, you always draw it back to some sort of weather manipulation technology. Do you see the irony here, Shayne? How do you believe in weather manipulation technology, but you don't believe in climate change? The things that you're fucking looking at are the result of climate change. It literally, that is what is happening in front of you. There is science backing it up, like tons of fucking evidence. This is why I have a hard time believing that you're going to be able to change your opinion about anything when presented with evidence of it, because you literally are looking at the results of climate change happening right in front of you, and you're saying it's a fucking like weather laser or some shit like that. Fucking A, do you not see how this only benefits the ruling class? You are literally enabling them to continue fucking our planet because you're regurgitating the propaganda that they fed you. God damn. Okay, back to whatever I'm saying in this part. I don't even fucking remember anymore. And while you sit here smugly spreading anti-science, climate change denial propaganda, fracking wells poison the water of American farmers, and hundreds of thousands of acres of pristine land are opened to drilling and mining, the things you are saying, Shayne, are allowing this to happen. You call yourself a steward of the natural world, and yet the things you are saying are actively covering for the people that are destroying it. And this is a perfect example of the beautiful irony in your content. You claim to fight against the system and to be the underdog, but the underlying message of nearly every single thing you say does nothing but serve the dominant system of power. You claim to hate the power that the elites have over us, and yet you support ICE disappearing people, literally the stormtroopers that enforce the whims of the ruling class by threatening us with violence. You claim to be able to see how identity politics just divides us, and then you dabble in homophobia and transphobia, which is like the most textbook example of fabricated outrage by the ruling class. They are telling you to be mad at an already marginalized group so that you don't get mad at them. I want you to ask yourself, who does it really benefit when I make videos complaining about immigrants or fucking gay people? Is this message helping break the wheel of the system of power? Or am I now becoming part of that wheel and directing my anger at a group that they have arbitrarily told me are the enemy? When it all comes down to it, Shayne, we're all the exact fucking same. One of the most genius strategies of the ruling class that they've used pretty much forever is distracting you from how much you're being fucked by pointing you at a group that's being fucked more than you. And it's really easy to punch down. You're also right about something else, Shayne. There is an us and a them. But the them is not immigrants or trans people or the Jews. We are the us, the 99.9%. The them is the 0.1%, the blood-sucking parasites of our labor. The politicians, the lobbyists, the oil executives, the CEOs, the banks, the mortgage brokers, the real estate investors, I could go on and fucking on. They are tearing our world apart and feasting on the remains. They are literally banning books. They are rewriting our history in our museums. They're taking away the healthcare for our veterans and building gold-plated fucking ballrooms. Look around you, Shayne. Do you see what is happening? It's not a secret anymore. There is no invisible shadow government. It's just the actual fucking government. It's happening right in front of you, and they're not even hiding it. It used to be a case where they would be pissing down your back and tell you it's raining, but they aren't even doing that anymore. They're pissing on your face and telling you that it's piss. And you're sitting there soaked in fucking piss complaining about gender-neutral bathrooms and vaccines or some shit. The hardest thing for a person to do is admit that they've been pissed on. Sometimes it's easier to sit there soaked than it is to admit that you were taken advantage of. I think that the dominant thing that is keeping the system of power in place right now is how many people are sort of experiencing this sunk cost fallacy. That if they're going to admit that they were tricked now, they're going to have to admit they were tricked for a really long time. And that is a really hard thing to do. I totally understand it. But as much as I can't believe I'm saying this, Shayne, I think your heart's in the right place. I just think that you've been taken advantage of, and I now see you taking advantage of other people. But I don't know if you know that you're doing it. And so I'm telling you this to try and give you the opportunity to hold up the mirror and maybe be able to course correct. I'm not asking for some public apology or some big show of having changed. I just want you to show it through your actions. We don't need a video of you washing the piss off. We just want to see a video where you're in clean clothes. An important question that I want you to reflect on are the words of the legendary Pete Seeger, who I think you could actually benefit from listening to some of his music. I think it could give you an important perspective on what the real problems are. But what I want you to ask yourself is, which side are you on? You've spread propaganda that allows oil executives to continue the rape of our planet. Propaganda that allows people to be detained by the elite's fucking Gestapo and held with no due process. Propaganda that has led to the death of children. Your future is entirely in your hands, Shayne. And I personally believe that it is not too late for you. You are in a unique position where you are surrounded by other people who have also fallen for this propaganda, who have been tricked. strict. You understand it better than most people do. And I firmly believe that if you take the time to actually do your research, you could be in an invaluable position as a communicator to be able to show people what the real fucking problems are. I'm not asking you to become like a climate justice crusader or, you know, participate in your local fucking pride parade, but I'm just asking you to direct your energy at things that are more productive. The following that you have online is a huge responsibility, Shayne, and genuinely, as a man to a man, I want to see you do better. What happens next, Shayne, is up to you. The choice is yours. You can keep fighting for them, or you can fight with the rest of us. You just need to ask yourself, which side am I on? Myself and all of us are watching you, Shayne. I genuinely think that you can do this, and I wish you the best of luck. Oh man, guys. Well, that's gonna do it for this fucking video. Why did I do this? I'm so excited to make a video about literally anything fucking else. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please, for God's sake, make sure to leave an interaction. It costs you absolutely nothing and helps these videos do better in the algorithm, which allows me to continue making them for free here on YouTube. If you enjoyed binge watching this series while you know, play video games or do your laundry or something, I have plenty more videos like it, so why let the binge stop here? And if you have friends that do the same thing, which let's be honest, you absolutely do, I'd love if you could share this video with them. It helps the channel out a lot, and then you'll have something to chat about next time you see each other. Would also love if you guys wanted to check out some this here merch. Link to that is in the description of this video. A portion of each purchase goes directly to the artist that actually made the design as part of my pledge to support real human art in the horrible world that we live in. I would also like to give a massive fucking thank you to my editorial team. You guys are fucking amazing. I can't believe that we did this entire project. This was an absolute grind. Y'all have been working on this since May. I've been working on this since May. Every fucking Monday and Friday we're there fucking grinding this shit out, and I cannot believe it's finally done. So please give yourselves a big fucking pat on the back, a sincere and genuine thank you from me and audience as well. I might be the guy in front of the camera, but these videos are only possible because of my immensely dedicated and talented editorial team. So you owe them honestly more of a thank you than you owe me. I'd like to give an extra special thank you to my patrons on Patreon. Patrons get early ad-free access to all of my videos, and all of your names will be in the credits of this video as a small token of my appreciation. If you'd like to become a patron and support what I do here, link to that is also in the description of this video. All right, wow. Well, can't wait for the next one. I'm so glad to be done with this project. Ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay curious, stay inquisitive, and most importantly, remember, which side are you on? My Pokemon has battled hard and returned? Are you kidding me, dude? I'm trying to make a video and people are knocking me out of gyms and shit? This video's off to a bad start. I don't give a fuck about Photoshop format options. Leave me alone. Shut the fuck up, Lightroom. I don't care about you either. You too, Discord. You too, Spotify. Get out of here. The chemtrails, oh no! The first day of my vacation, and this is what I'm fucking doing with it. Talking about Shayne goddamn Vibes. I hope that is his last name. Mr. Vibes, it's a pleasure to have you here. Please, Mr. Vibes was my father. Call me Shayne. Do you think if he's married, when he proposed to his wife, he asked her if she wanted to be Mrs. Vibes? Ladies, if your man isn't making your Mrs. Vibes... Oh, God. Wow, Milo, I heard all that creaking upstairs. Are you having a good time? No, actually, I was talking about Shayne Vibes Truth. When it comes to talking about Shayne Vibes Truth, the only chair sound you don't want to hear is the sound of a chair hitting the floor. Yes, Shayne, they're all Yes, Shayne, they're all Yes, Shayne, they're all Yes. 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 The official story is that it has to do with indigenous land, burials. What you've done here is take 3 different sites. God fucking damn it. Where's my blue painter's tape? I'm gonna go beast mode on these motherfuckers. Ugh. Couldn't build a pyramid today. You have no idea what I can do with a roll of blue painter's tape. Anyone want to give me $3 million so I can fix this house in 2 weeks? Holy fuck. See that? That was pretty good. I'm kidding. I have no idea how much this is going to cost. Not $3 million, but if you want to give me $3 million, I'm not going to stop you. Hello? Come in. Oh no, really? Yes. I ate the onion. Fucking hilarious. Look at this, guys. This right here is called accountability. When you learn that you ate the onion, it happens to all of us. I am immediately, yeah. I made it the fuck up. Source, I made it the fuck up. Yeah, before that gets out of control completely. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, honey. Now that's the kind of thing you can't script. That's fucking hilarious. See, Shane, it can happen to the best of us. I mean, granted, it happens a lot less if you at least fucking try, but, you know, credit where credit is due.